on, everybody? It's DH Thorne coming at you live on this beautiful Thursday evening. I hope everybody's doing well. I see there's only a handful of people here yet, so I'm not going to really get started till we build up a little bit. So tell your friends that we're here. Hopefully, we can get the chat going a little bit. Tonight's going to be mainly a Q&A. Hopefully you guys can hear me good. It's going to be mainly a Q&A tonight. I don't have any big topics on my mind, but I figured it'd be fun just to let you guys set the tone for the night. There's nothing really on my mind. No major stuff, no big worries, no... There's probably plenty of things we could talk about, though. It really depends on you. Should we talk current events? Shall we talk magic? Shall we talk spirituality? So I'm going to let you guys decide. So, yeah, let's start it off that way. So we got some people chatting already. What's up, Star Ruby Corsi? What's going on? What's up, Kelly? Good to see you, too. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm kind of in a mellow mood today. You know, my wife and I, we went to our favorite park today. What's up, Cauldron Witch? What's going on? I think my wife's working on something for you, actually, as we speak, unless she fell asleep doing it. But she was starting to work on something for you from last night, I understand. So, what's up, Sin? What's up, Gage the Mage? What's up, Atropa? How you doing? Yeah, you finally caught one. That's right, Gage. So my wife and I, we went to our favorite park today. And we went for a bike ride, which was nice. We got these e-bikes, and thanks, of course, to Boredom Kills for the inspiration for that bike. We took them for a ride. I guess like a 5-6 mile ride, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. And it was nice. We got outside. It was gorgeous weather. It was like 82 degrees, something like that. 82, 83. It's just right. It's warm without being too hot.
Got outside without the clothes.
Like you can wear shorts and not be like, sweating your butt off, but you don't need to wear shorts. Well, I guess you kind of do, but it's not so bad. But yeah, we went up hills and down dales, and it was just nice. It was really nice. So yeah, it was just a good day. Got a lot off, got a load off, I guess. Got a load off the soul. That's the park that I'm talking about. It's actually a really interesting location. It's on Long Island. It's called Comset, for those of you who don't know. And it's a big, it's a pretty big park and nature preserve. And they got like a horse ranch on it. And this time of year, it's not too busy. Like if you go there, like in another month, it's going to be overloaded with people. But like right now, it's like just perfect. There's just a handful of people. The weather's perfect. The beach isn't loaded up with people. It's just nice. And so we rode our bikes everywhere, and it was just nice all around. I can't say nice enough, right? It was just really nice. But it kind of got a lot of tension out, I guess. A lot of tension out, which is good. I guess one of the things that we could talk about is, with all the things sort of erupting, I think erupting is a good word. With all of the things erupting, when I say erupting, I don't mean like a volcano. I mean erupting like an open wound. Like you ever see like somebody's got like a boil or an abscess or an infection? A lot of things are erupting, like a heinous zit. Like I'll use that 90s. A heinous zit is erupting in our civilization. A lot of things are being revealed to those who are pretty much, you have to be intentionally blind at this point not to see kind of what's going on. Even if you got like some different views of what's going on, you got to be really stupid not to see the general big picture of what's going on. And it's erupting like a boil on the surface of the ass of this fucking world. And it's oozing everywhere. And it's about fucking time people actually wake up and see what's going on. So it's a good thing. And, I sort of, every now and then, like I go through these phases where, I am very much in my, we'll say egoistic phase. And when I say egoistic, I mean not like, oh, it's all about me. But my egoistic phase meaning, the various things of life will get to me a little bit. Especially these big picture things, these big ticket things. I look around the world and I get frustrated at the fact that there are people who don't see it, or what they see is the opposite or something else, and it's very frustrating. But it's always going to be that way, you know. So the Zen phrase "let go or be dragged" comes to mind, and of course, letting go is the most important thing. If you can't let go, even of the outcome, your magic won't work, right? If you're doing magic, whether you believe magic causes things to happen or it's something else, I'm more towards a different perspective than it causes things to happen. But depending upon your perspective of what magic does, whatever it does will not work if you're attached to it. So whether you think magic causes things to happen, like cause and effect, you know, like you can cause the world to change and bend the laws of nature or whatever. One of those axioms in magic that is universal to pretty much every system is you've got to be able to let go of your desires. You have to pour it all out, and then once you stop worrying about it, that's usually when weird shit happens and it starts to manifest. It's like really weird like that. Even if you don't think magic causes things to happen, even if you think like I do that it's something more akin to premonition and synchronicity, even if that's what you think, when you're attached to it, you tend not to notice the bigger picture the right way, and you just kind of, you know, how shall we say, you're lost in the forest because you're staring at the trees too much. You're worried too much about, you know, getting home, and you're not paying attention to where you're going. So you got to let go. You can't be attached all the time. And, you know, just the other day, I just kind of like something snapped in me, and all this stuff that's been bothering me about what's going on. I'm just, you know, it's, you resign yourself to trust that you incarnated into this reality for a reason, even if that reason was just to have fun. You know, a lot of people think that, you know, the divine self, which if you're a non-dualist like me, which I'm sure a lot of you are or wish you were, I guess, but if you're a non-dualist like I am, you understand that you have put your attention here into this life for a reason. And that reason isn't necessarily something that is rational to a human mind. I'm reminded of the Tao Te Ching and just the general understanding of the Tao, in which the Tao is not something that acts according to reason. It's more like play. It doesn't do things for a reason. It's more like play. So even if you can't figure out what the reason is probably, if nothing else, entertainment. And that's why not long ago I made that meme, you know, when people ask me why I incarnated here, and it was the scene from The Breakfast Club, and it was, I had nothing better to do. That's sort of like, it sort of dawned on me, like, why the fuck am I here? Am I here to fight this battle? Am I here to wake people up? Am I here to cause change? What am I supposed to do? And then I realized, you know what? Even if that is the case, let's pretend that that's the case, then that must be because that's the most entertaining thing I could think to do with this life. I had nothing better to do. So I came here to be this person at this time in this world. And, you know, there's a certain peace that comes with knowing a hurricane's coming, that there's an unstoppable situation. There's a certain peace, you know, reticence, or not reticence, resignation. Doesn't mean you don't board up the windows. It just means that you realize that you've done what you can, and you've got to just let it do its thing. We'll see how I am in a week or two. You know, maybe I'll crash again. But I'm back in that mentality where it's like, well, it's going to be what it's going to be. I'm not happy about a lot of it, but being unhappy doesn't change anything, does it? So I might as well find not the happiness, but the peace in between. I must find the peace and be at peace. And then I can find the happiness. I can find, you know, here's the thing. When you're worried about an outcome, this goes with the magical thing again. When you're worried about an outcome, you're not noticing the happiness before the outcome. So if you're, you know, like, let's say you're doing a ritual and you're trying to bring back your ex, right? Everybody knows how I feel about those bring back your ex bullshit. I think that's like such weak shit. If your ex left you, it's a good reason for it, even if it's something that was stupid. uh, you know, fuck off with that shit. Like, just let that go. Like, I hate when people hold on to people. Like, I can't stand that. There's too many people that do that, and it makes a lot of toxic shit. But anyway, you know, if you are doing a ritual to bring back your ex, you may end up with the perfect mate of your dreams throwing themselves at you. But because you're caught up in the desire, you're going to miss it, and you're miserable all the time instead of seeing the pleasure in the moment. It is possible to go through like the worst of the worst experiences, and even in the midst of that, find pleasure in the simplest things. A good example of that was, I remember one time, when I was about, I don't know, maybe 11 years old or so, our car got caught in a flood, sort of. Like, you know how, like, if your car hits a deep puddle type of thing, it'll stall out. This was like like, we didn't realize how deep it was. My mom drove through it and the car got stuck. And I had to get out of the car. The water's pouring into the car because it was like almost up to the door handle. And I have to get out of the car, and someone ends up slamming the door on my hand. Somehow my hand didn't break. That was a miracle. I get out of the car, the water's up to my hip, and we trudge our way out. The rain's pouring down. This is the most miserable fucking thing you can imagine, right? And it's really just uncomfortable the whole way. And as I'm going, I thought of this funny joke, and I just kind of laughed to myself. And I felt better, like, even in the midst of all of this. And it doesn't work all the time. Like, you can ask my wife. I'm a pretty mellow guy. Every once in a while, though, I crash, and I'll just get mad about dumb shit. Like, we'll be at work, and a truck will come in at like 4:30, 5 o'clock when we're like just about to leave, and we got to unload a truck, and then we got to stay late, and then we got to work the next day. And it's like, fuck. And then I just get mad, and it's like, you know. But sometimes it's just a venting system. Am I actually mad? Sometimes. Most of the time, I am just sort of venting. Yeah. Key points, only sometimes. The thing is, when you have your sort of Zen epiphanies and you realize the truth of your being, you recognize that all of these things are not just transitory, but all of these things are not happening to the real you. There is nothing happening to the real you. The real you is the observer of these things. It is not even the observer, that's a noun. It is the observing. Consciousness isn't a noun. Consciousness is a verb. You're a verb, not a noun. You're a happening, not a happened, right? And when you have these sort of awakenings, the difficult thing is holding on to that awakening. You know, that's what the integration that we do in our magic, in our, you know, practices and our rituals and our meditations, depending upon the path you're following, really that should be about integration more than anything. You know, yeah, I mean, exactly, Alexander. See, like, I get mad. I ain't even gonna lie. Like, I sometimes Google things like, did the Buddha get angry? And I always find, because I find that an interesting question, right? Because I find it impossible to believe that the human manifestation never felt anger after awakening. I find that absurd. I'm pretty sure if the Buddha could feel pain, the Buddha could feel every other emotion. So the difference is that to feel an emotion, and you can't cork it, right? You can't like stick an emotion in a bottle and say that that's enlightenment. That's not enlightenment. That's deflecting. That's bottling. That's not healthy. I would think that even in anger, the Buddha was at peace, because the Buddha represents an individual who has transcended their anger. So the real self is not angry. And I understand that on a very fundamental level. Again, you can ask my wife. We'll have a fight sometimes, and sometimes the anger that I'm showing, I know is an act. Like I'm angry, don't get me wrong, but I'm not. And it turns off instantly, like when it's time. And it's not, it's hard to explain because it's not fake, but it's not like I am angry. Anger is happening, but there's nobody to be angry, right? So it's sort of like any other experience. Experience is happening, but there's no one for it to happen to. And when you realize that, those feelings pass much more easily. You don't cling to them at all. They just sort of come and go. You just sort of look at them like, well, I felt shitty a minute ago, but I feel good now. What matters, how I felt a minute ago or now? And one of the things that frustrates me about people, or myself when I catch myself doing this, is when people live in the future or the past, and they look at the past and go, I did this, I'm a piece of crap. I'm not going to do this right, I'm a piece of crap. Like when people live in the future or the past, that's where suffering is. In the moment isn't really where suffering is. Yes, you might be experiencing pain in the moment. You might be experiencing anger in the moment. But suffering doesn't actually happen if you are truly, truly centered in the moment the same way. Suffering is an anxiety. Suffering is a foreboding. Suffering is a guilt. Suffering is a regret. Suffering isn't really pain, because pain is just another sensation. Pain isn't the same thing as suffering. Yes. Yes, thank you, Jay. But I think you're right, because that's kind of, Jay says, yes, Buddha definitely felt anger, but had learned to detach from it and the suffering. That's kind of what I'm trying to describe for you. I'm not trying to say that, the Buddha is something that I am, right? Although I would say, I mean, that is sort of the point of Buddhism, is to understand that all is Buddha, basically. The Buddha is, we don't become the Buddha. We are the Buddha. We have to realize it. So, I think you're right, because that's sort of my experience, although I would say that I'm still working on it a little bit. And I think when I say I'm working on it, I think what makes me different from other people is when people say they're working on it, they mean it, right? I'm trying to make it better. God damn it. I want to be a better person. When I say that I'm working on it, what I really mean is I'm having fun pretending I can't do it. Because there's always a part of me, because I have that detachment, when I am looking at what I'm feeling, later on, or in that moment, it doesn't matter, I'll be like, yeah, it's funny, that's not really what I am. And so there's a detachment there. And so I'll say I'm working on it. And I catch myself saying that, and I think to myself, one of the reasons I say that is for your benefit, not mine. So why do I say I'm working on it? If you left me to my own devices, I wouldn't work on anything. I'd be fine, because I'm not suffering really. Like, I'm not experiencing suffering, so what is there to work on? I'm not experiencing suffering in the same way other people do, if at all. I can't think of the last time I've actually experienced actual suffering. Pain, abso-fucking-lutely. Emotional distress, abso-fucking-lutely. But the equivalent of suffering, it's been a long time since I've actually felt suffering in the same way. Probably the closest that I've come to actual suffering has been with current events. That's the closest I've been. But it still doesn't hold a candle, whatever that was, to actual suffering that I remember having experienced when I was younger. Things that I've gone through, things that I've done, things that I would regret or have anxiety or problems about, right? So genuine suffering, like suffering that is like the suffering that's good for the soul, the dark night of the soul. I haven't experienced that in a long ass time. I sleep like a baby, guys. I don't have a lot of regrets, or I might have some anxiety issues once in a while, but it's totally a different thing. It's my body doing that. It's not me going, oh, my life is horrible, tomorrow's going to be a bad day. So when I say I'm working on it, most of the time, if not all of the time, what I'm really doing is saying that for your benefit, because I think people expect you to be a work in progress. People expect you to be always trying to be better than the person that you were before. And the reason they expect that is because they're also egoistic and they want to feel like they're being better, and they want to be able to judge other people who aren't, and so on. It's kind of a sick game if you really think about it. Like, why does it bother you if someone's not getting better at something? Why does it bother you if someone's not working on themselves? Because that means that you don't have to either, right? So you're kind of jealous. Like, this motherfucker's not working on themselves? Well, I got to do it. And so it gives you a way to like look down at people. And by looking down at people, that gives you a position in reality. Just like having to look up at people gives you a position in reality. That's ego inflating. That's ego reification. Ego, another good word for ego would be relativism. It's not exact. I know there's people going to be like, oh, they're not the same thing. Yeah, I know. But relativity is a major component of egoism. Without the sense of, I am here right now, and that is over there, and that is over there, and this is a moment ago, and that's a moment from now, and you're you, and I'm me, and that person's better than me, and that person's worse. Ego can't happen. So there has to be a sense of relativism. Relativism is caused by divine ignorance. In other words, the divine forgetting itself. When the divine forgets itself and thinks that it's just this, then it has relativistic egoism. Without those things, you don't experience the world the same way. And if you're living a life where you are not, for example, always having habitual thoughts, guess what? You have far less incidence of relativism. So when I tell people I don't have a very active brain like other people do anymore, there was a time where my brain was a chatterbox, probably just like yours. My brain would go a mile a fucking minute to the point where I thought faster than I could talk, type, anything. I was 10,000 steps ahead of myself most of the time, and it was very difficult for me. And that would lead me, because I'd be echoing problems all day. I'd be recycling the same arguments all day. An argument I had with somebody will linger. Well, that's more like suffering, isn't it? So that blah, blah, blah in the head, when you don't have that, then that means you have less reminders of your egoistic positioning, your relativism. Without that chattering going on, you're just experiencing. And when you're just experiencing, egoism subsides. Now, again, you're going to get my haters and critics going, Thorne, how could you say that? You're one of the most arrogant, opinionated, blah, 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 whatever. Ego of the sort I'm talking about isn't a bad behavior. It is an identity complex. It is an I am, okay? And you might still have bad habits that offend people and rub them the wrong way, but be entirely egoless. It is possible. Because again, people who don't understand what enlightenment, whatever that is, if anybody tells you what that is, really, they don't know what they're talking about. You know, you could say enlightenment is the letting go, it is the realization, it's the awakening, but that's not really telling you what it is. Awakening to what? Realizing what? Well, that you're divine. Okay, what does that mean? You see? We could go on and on and on and on and on and never actually say anything. It would just be a bunch of projections. It wouldn't be the reality. So anyone says that, oh, I know what enlightenment is, or I'm enlightened, they're lying to you, because it's not how this works. You know, it's not a state that you're in. Enlightenment is going for a bike ride with your wife in a gorgeous day. That's enlightenment. You know, it's sitting there, the breeze kicks up. It's a haiku. The breeze kicks up, you're staring at the trees. It's silent for a moment, nobody needs to say anything, and you're just totally in the moment, no thoughts, no nothing, and just, that's enlightenment. What is that? You know, who can that happen to? Yes, exactly, Alexander. Enlightenment is the ultimate ego chase. Exactly. So when people look at me and say, oh, Thorne's not really enlightened because he still acts like an asshole sometimes, and he can be arrogant, and he can be snarky to people, and he doesn't act like the Buddha and all kind of, you know, you'll get all these people that say this shit, and I never made the claim that I am, again, But let's say that, you know, that was the case. It's not. Those people are judging by the standards of something they themselves do not have. So it's like a blind person trying to tell another blind person that they don't know what a sunset looks like. You know, it's like a blind person telling another blind person, you know, it's hypocritical is what I'm getting at. It's highly hypocritical. You know how egoistic you have to be to worry about somebody else's ego? Do you know how insecure you have to be to look at someone and be like, they make everyone insecure? That's like, you know, they have an insecurity complex. That is so, it's laughable to me, you know. I don't mean that you can't notice things like that. I mean, obviously, I sort of, you know, here's where people say, oh, Thorne will contradict himself. I'm not contradicting myself. I'm saying that there is a fine line between looking at someone and sort of like realizing that they're a threat and then judging them, right? There's a fine line. So, yeah. Long story short, there wasn't really any topic here, but it sort of turned into the topic of attachment today. And that's probably a good thing, because attachment is probably the number one thing that ruins your manifestation, the number one thing that stands in the way of your ascension, the number one thing that stands in the way of your enlightenment is different forms of attachment. It is easier by far, to realize enlightenment when you are not attached. And it is easier to be rid of attachments than most people realize. To be attached is an effort. It's attention. Literally the meaning of the word attention in a way. Attachment is a form of tension. This is why enlightenment is equated with letting go. So when you let go of all attachments, guess what? Enlightenment is revealed. You see it now. You understand it. You feel it. So what did I describe before when I said that, you know, enlightenment is sitting at the park with your wife, beautiful breeze kicks up, there's some trees, your thoughts are empty and you're just going, that is enlightenment, because it's a complete release of all attachment. There is no attachment in that moment. You're just in the moment, comfortable, experiencing reality, happy. And it's not happiness, wrong word, it's peace. It's total peace. Now, what does this have to do with ascension? Well, an ascended being, shall we say. See, I don't like the word ascension. This is why, like, when I run into Luciferians. Good night, not your father's country. Mr. Mission Control, I believe. Good night, good night, good night. My problem with the word ascension is that there's nothing to ascend. There's nothing higher. There's nowhere to go, you know. So I have a little issue with the word ascension. I prefer, like, I don't know, apotheosis, I suppose, if I was going to pick a word with an A in it. Awakening is a much better word. You know, ascension, unless it means to stop being fallen, and by fallen I mean asleep, then maybe I'll use it. You know, when someone says someone's an ascended master, what does that fucking mean? Are you saying he's better than everybody? No ascended master ever would ever say that they're better than anyone at anything. Not in an objective way. You could say, like, yeah, subjectively I'm better than you at this, like relativistically. Like, yeah, I bounce a ball better than you or something. But no ascended master would ever say I am superior to you as a being. You can say I'm smarter, I'm a better cook, any of that shit. But no ascended master like, I am an ascended master. You know, fucking theosophy and all that shit. I think that's where that comes from. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Pretty sure all that ascended master crap comes from theosophy. Theosophy is like this interesting thing that I try not to pay too much attention to, that spawned this new age garbage. And superstitious stuff came out of it, and some good stuff too. It's not all bad, but it's you know, people go like, oh, I'd love to meet Madame Blavatsky. Why would you want to meet her? Like, why would you want to meet, oh, what about Steiner? I wouldn't want to meet Steiner either. Like, I'd rather meet the people that inspired them. You know, fuck them. I want to meet the people that they were inspired by, the ones that they think of as ascended masters. Let me meet them. So, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Slim Lewis. I am going to try to answer that question. I'm going to try to answer that question as best I can. I'm going to need a minute because I'm going to get a drink because I feel parched for some reason. I think, you know, sometimes I drink water and it doesn't actually, like, how many of you guys know, like, drinking water doesn't necessarily help your throat or your voice. Sometimes you need something else. And I got to go hunt for something else that'll work. But I'm going to answer your question in a minute. So let me hover that so it'll stay on my screen. I'm going to be right back. Hopefully I don't knock something over and burn the house down. Give me 1 second. Did I gift myself a terrible... Yep, see, did I predict that or what? How did I do that? I literally knocked my cup over. How did I do that? Hope we don't knock something over. Sure as hell did right away. It's impressive. Not even drunk. That ass asleep. I'm talking to myself. There's nobody awake around here. I'm literally talking to myself as I'm walking around. I bet you everybody's dying laughing now because I knocked that thing over. That's pretty funny. Messed up my music too. Nature's Wrath. Nailed it. You were enlightened in that moment. See, this is the reason why Nature's Wrath says, I was laying on a hillside earlier today, looking at the field grass flow in the wind. I felt no attachment at that moment, and I was just being. I guess by your definition, I touched enlightenment. You realized enlightenment. There was no one to be enlightened in that moment. You were just at peace. That was enlightenment. Just telling you. Now imagine being able to do that even in the middle of a bad moment. So enlightenment is easy on a beautiful day and it's sunny out and the wind's blowing. Can you be enlightened in the middle of a car accident? And again, because of language, I have to say, could you be enlightened? What I really mean is, can you experience, can you be aware of, can you find enlightenment even in the middle of a crisis? That's the real test. That's like, if you want to have like a test, that's the test. And that, it's sort of a trick question too, by the way. So let me fix my music up here. Let's see. Oh, that sounds good. Title of this is a playlist. Where'd it go? A playlist for a 19th century villain admiring his chaos. Yeah, I like that. We're gonna, let's see. I'm gonna play that one. Yeah, if you find it, play it. Play it along with me. I got to get through the ad first. So-called God can't even keep things from falling. True. You sure? I don't think I was trying to stop myself. I think the reason I said it was because I couldn't wait for it to happen, because I knew it would be hilarious. I would say that all prophecies are self-fulfilling if you're God, right? All right. Ooh, that's popping. It might be a little too bouncy there. We'll play it. All right, so Slim Lewis asked, something I've thought about, and thank you for the 666. I really appreciate that. Super chats will get my attention much faster than anything else. Something I've thought about. How does one practice non-attachment to material things while at the same time bettering oneself financially? Thanks. Let me ask you something, Slim. And I hope you're paying attention. Do you have to try to get fatter? I mean, the average person, do they, I mean, I'm sure some people, there's an exception to the rule. Does the average person have to try to get fatter? Do they have to sit there and worry about eating too much and make sure that they do it? Do they have to sit there going, oh man, I'm only 240 today. I better go eat a couple thousand more cheeseburgers. No. The way a person achieves grotesquely fatness, and I should be able to tell you this because I was and still am, but I was much fatter once upon a time not long ago. I'm still a little bit fat. So I can tell you from a perspective that is an expert opinion. I am absolutely the quintessential expert. I mean, just short of like a Walter Hudson. I am the quintessential expert on fatness. And if I can equate fatness to what you're seeking, that is financial wealth, the answer is exactly the same. In order to become wealthy, in order to achieve anything without attachment, then all you really need to do is have that thing just be as natural to you as eating or breathing or something else. A fat person doesn't have to try to become fat. And what is financial security even, if not a form of fatness? You know, fatness isn't actually bad biologically by itself. Fatness is actually an evolutionary advantage. And you'll notice that the reason it happens, especially for people whose genetics come from northern climates, is because, well, their body they need the calories because of the cold. So they will, you know, they pack on weight easier. Most of my genetics come from northern climates. So I'm an endomorph. So that means you give me even a little bit of carbs, my body's, you know, that's why the keto diet works so well for me. So what I'm saying to you is, if you want to get wealthy without attachment, that's actually not hard at all. The attachment's the part that you're getting stuck on. Getting, you know, Alexander C said, yeah, Vikings don't have six packs, ultimately pay off. It's true. It's true. They didn't. They were endomorphic. They were big, but they weren't like, they didn't look like the dude from the Northman. I have to tell you, I'm pretty sure they didn't, dude. No. No. Hang out with like Norwegian people, right? You know, they're big. Don't get me wrong. Now, I shouldn't be speaking as an expert on finance, because obviously I'm not rich. You know, I remember people used to accuse me like, oh, Thorne, you're just in this for the money. Like, dude, if I was in this for the money, there's a million other things I could be doing instead that I probably could get a job doing right now. I have like better training for or whatever. There's jobs I could get. I could go back to working a white collar job, earn twice as much as I make, even doing this and my other job. I would be in a much more financially secure position, but I would be so unhappy. My goal in life is not wealth. It's basically the least amount of friction as possible. I want to just slip through life. I want to slip through the cracks. Yay, boy, I have quite the ambition, huh? I want to be an enlightened bum. I want to be like Mad Max, but instead of driving a car around, I'm just going to walk around with a staff and be fearless and be that guy. That's what I want. So if you want financial growth, stability, etc., it is exactly the same advice I'll give you that Alan Watts would give you. Instead of seeking the wealth in abundance, try to find something that you enjoy, that you're good at. Doesn't have to be anything really spectacular. It could be you like making YouTube videos about spiritual stuff. And then just do that and get really good at it. Become the best you can be at it. And you'll run into people who are willing to pay you $6.66 to ask you questions. See what I did there? They're willing to pay you for your time. Maybe you're a video game nut. Well, I remember when I was a kid and people used to joke around about how you couldn't make a living having anything to do with video games. And now look at the world. And I don't just mean like making video games, because that's actually a minority of people who make money. The real money in video games isn't in making video games. It's in making content about video games. You want to make, like, that's another good example. If I was in it for the money, this would be a gaming channel. I would be I would be so much bigger if I was a gaming channel. Well, maybe not. I'm not that interesting in gaming. I'm kind of boring with games because if you ever listen to me play a game, I'm very quiet. Like everyone else is talking, I'm like, whatever. I'm shooting shit. Like if you want to get a word in edgewise, have me play a video game, right? If you want a word in edgewise, get me play a video game. Ask my wife. Ask anybody. It's really funny. People have like joined to play a game with me, and I think that they were stunned. Like Eddie, he never, we started hanging out playing video games. He was like stunned because now I'm quiet and everybody else is talking. I'm like, can we get on I know the mission. Can we do the mission? Like, okay, yeah, you guys can talk. I don't mind if you talk, but I got to interrupt. Can we go kill the bad guy now? So it's pretty fun. And I definitely don't play video games as much as I did Twilight. I noticed he just said the same thing. I don't play games as much as I did. For a while there, I used to play them a lot more. And now, to me, gaming has now become a diversion, and it's not necessary for me to be happy. But the problem is that it can distract me from work I need to do, and it's not as fulfilling as the work I want to do. So I only do the gaming sort of as a time waster when I need to just get my mind off of things. And that means that I can't really play games with like deep storylines the way I used to. Black Salvation, fuck the living Christ. I am Brahman. You are the Atman as well. And I am the Brahman too. All is Brahman. All is Atman. There's only one Atman and all is Brahman. And Atman is its soul. Hector Litch asked, DH, did you hear about the attempted murder of Justice Kavanaugh? Just discussing the far left media is to blame for it. Here's the deal with that, okay? First and foremost, let's not get caught up in the same blame game bullshit that the other side would have done. You're not wrong, you're not right. I know exactly what you're saying because I'm very familiar with what happened. I watched a lot of the same things you've probably watched. I've heard the same opinions. What they're trying to do is tit for tat, okay? Whether or not, here's the thing, you have to remember neither side is pure. Neither side is really moralistically good. I'm actually shocked if the side that I prefer isn't doing its own shady, underhanded shit with wind-up fucking assassins and all kinds of weird shit too. In fact, I would be very pissed off if they're not. If I found out that Trump's side was not potentially cheating things and twisting things, because I'm not a moralistic person and I want to win and I want freedom to reign, I would be very pissed off if I learned that everything that they did, that they never broke the rules once. So I guess what I'm getting at is that from my Machiavellian mindset, when I look at that situation, what I see is a situation where the other side, my side, if you will, and sides are stupid, but for linguistic purposes, I got to play this game. The side that I am on is capitalizing on that event to attack one of their main leaders, which is Schumer, who, I'm sorry, everybody, he's coming from, my area pretty much. Fucker. He says he represents me. He doesn't. They're trying to capitalize on it to attack them with the exact same kind of rhetoric that they try to use on the other side. Now, this is what, if you know if you know political theory and how to adjust things and NLP and mind control, you have heard of Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. Well, what you just super chatted me with is a prime example of the right finally learning to use the rules for radicals, which are highly effective, by the way. One of the most effective ways to manipulate societies, believe it or not, is found in the rules for radicals. They work. Else there wouldn't be the rules for radicals. They fucking work. Are they underhanded? Yes. Are they shitty? Yes. But they fucking work. At least in the temporary short term, they work very well. In the long term, maybe not so much if you don't fix shit, but, because it is kind of like cheating. So specifically, the rules for radicals, the rule that they're exploiting in this case, is make them live up to their own rules. So the left has been and we say the left, I don't even see it as the left. The globalists. So when I'm talking about sides, I see the side that is for freedom and the side that is trying to get people, put in a pit, in a gulag. The side that is for freedom, they're finally learning to play by the same rules. Is that a good thing? Well, we'll see. We'll see. Sort of lost my train of thought because I'm reading the chat like an idiot. I hate when I do that. Could we say that they're winding people up? Of course they are. I think you're absolutely right that they are winding people up. And by that I mean the media. And by that I mean the people in government. They're absolutely winding people up because, well, it's called agenda setting. The media sets the agenda. The media has more power than the government in a lot of ways. So long as the power belongs to the people, the media is the most powerful wing of the government that's ever existed. The government has wanted to get control of this is why the First Amendment exists, because the last thing you want is for the government to have total control over what can be said. Because the media, the town square, the ability to speak and have a newspaper and the printing press sets the agenda for a population. The media is literally the most important thing in a free society. Even in a not free society, the media is the most important because it's where the government can interface with the people, or the people interface with each other in the world and the government. So if the media is corrupt and they're setting the agenda, then yes, it is in their favor right now to cause as much angst and aggression and division that you can imagine. If possible, they want us all divided from each other, even on the same team. Now, when I talk about sides, let me really tell you what I mean. I don't mean Republican versus Democrat. I don't really buy into that. I might in public a little bit. Like if you see me on Twitter, I'll talk a good game on that level because that's the language these people understand. But what I see it as in my head, and this has gotten me in trouble with leftists before, because leftists that I've been friends with will hear me say the left, and I don't like that word so much because not all leftists agree with this stuff. There are leftists. You got like Russell Brand, who considers himself a leftist, who's pretty much on our side 100% as far as I can tell. Okay, Russell Brand is cool. So what are we talking about? So leftists aren't the problem per se. The problem is you have a cabal of globalists, elitists, authoritarians, this cabal of people that are trying to usher in one world government through a globalist system. That exists. There's no denying it right now. If you are looking at the world with open eyes and paying attention even a little bit, and you don't see exactly what I just described, you're a fool, and there's nothing I can say that will help you. At least not yet. So it's very obvious what's going on. So the side that I'm talking about is the side that doesn't want that. That's my side. I don't want a one world globalist government that wants to do all this crap to us. Don't want that. Don't want it. I don't want you to tell me what I can say. Don't want you to tell me what I can put in my body and whether I can have a firearm or not. I don't even want you to tell me whether I can have an abortion or not. I don't want the government to be involved in all this shit. Don't want them to tell me who I can marry and all this. Now, is there any wiggle room on any of these? There might be some wiggle room on abortion and there might be some wiggle room, but there's not really wiggle room. I want bodily autonomy. I want total freedom. I'm a libertarian at heart. I want maximum freedom, minimum government. Period. It's a very simple equation. Put all of the possible freedom over here and pack it all in as much as it'll fit, and then as little government as you can get away with. I don't really think you can do zero at this stage in human evolution, but the goal is eventually to get to zero government. I don't know if we'll ever get there. Probably not. Maybe when we're all like flying around in our own spaceships and we can just scatter into the universe, I guess government won't matter then. But in the world as we see it right now, if we're stuck on a planet, we probably need something. So that's my side, right? My side is not Democrat, it's not Republican, it's not even libertarian. It is leave me the fuck alone side. That's my side. And the opposition is globalism. Right? So when I'm saying sides, you get these people, like right now you got like this other tribe of people. It's the you're all divided tribe, right? They're looking at it, the world going, look at you all. Oh, you don't like fitting in. I mean, you like to label things. Huh, you're one of them. Catch what I'm getting here? Gets the irony? There's a group of people out there that are so anti-label that they refuse to label themselves, but they are all in a clique of people that cast shade on people who label. So if you sit there and say, well, my side is not to be with the globalists, like, oh, you're talking about sides, that's why you're losing. All right, relax. Whatever makes you feel better about yourself there, Chief. But the problem is you need a side to win. You need to organize. You need people on the same team. We don't have to agree about everything, but we got to agree that that's wrong, and then we can fix it. So what does the media do? The media wants us all divided about all little bullshit issues. I put a tweet up on Twitter. It's pinned on my profile. If you want to follow it, I get up to some angsty shit on Twitter. On my Twitter profile, it's a pinned comment that says something like, do you have any idea how bad the progressive woke left, and I'm using that language specifically, by the way. Remember what I said before about I'll talk in those terms, but I'm sort of talking down, but I'm talking in the terms that I think my audience would understand. Do you have any idea how bad it has to be for a literal Luciferian to side with conservatives and Christians on anything? Do you have any idea how bad the progressive woke left has to have become in order for me to go, I can't even talk to you anymore. I'm going to side with literal Christians who, if they find out what I do, will shun me. Do you have any idea how bad things have to be for me to do that? Do you like, please, I hope that for somebody this clicks just how bad that is. I'm not kidding. Like, to me, like, I wake up every day and I go, holy fuck, some of my favorite people to watch are fucking Christians. Holy shit. This is not okay. This is not okay. I think they do use the Bible as a script. Actually, Twilight, I think it goes beyond that. I think this is literally, if you've read Dune, you know what Missionaria Protectiva is, and you know what the Orange Catholic Bible is, and you know what the Bene Gesserits do. So they will insert into local cultures mythologies that are part of the Orange Catholic Bible. It's part of the Missionaria Protectiva, which is a way for them to infiltrate a society with myths and legends that they will carry out so that they can look like messiahs and holy people and whatever. So in other words, it's the Hegelian dialectic of religion. So you set up a prophecy in your books that you intend one day to carry out. It's like a Hegelian dialectic, which is problem, reaction, solution. You cause a problem, but the problem that you cause, you already have the solution ready, and then you offer that to the problem. So it's like a simplistic understanding of it would be, imagine somebody wants to become a fireman. So what they'll do, they want to impress the fire chief. They'll go set a fire secretly and then go and be the first one on the spot and put it out. So that's the Hegelian dialectic. They're hoping, so they cause a problem and they solve it, hoping to get the benefit. So what I think sort of is happening is that they have taken, either they created Revelation to do this with, or Revelation was something that they, because Revelation, by most scholars who study the Bible, believe they were talking about Rome. Specifically, I think it was it Nero? I forget. They were talking about Rome and Caesar and all that shit. And it was all sort of coded language about that. And I see what they're saying there. I sort of think that that's probably what it was. But I think that they took that. But you have Ragnarok too. You have all of these different apocalyptic stories. If you look, Ragnarok's also coming true. Interesting. Kali Yuga's also happening. Interesting. So what it seems to me is either all of these different religions predicted this time, or this time is cyclically happening a lot in human history, and the powers that be use these myths as a way to fuck with people's heads when the time comes. As things happen, they go, you know what would really fuck with people? That whole mark of the beast thing. Let's insert into their you know, their cultural memory this idea that, you know, getting a microchip is the mark of the beast, right? Now, whether it's them who did it or the other side, doesn't matter. It just weasels its way into the situation. So that's what it's about now. So this is sort of leading into that Satanic Panic 2.0 kind of stuff. The Satanic Panic 2.0 joke for me is that I still do not believe a Satanic Panic is underway right now. Yes, there are people panicking about Satanism. So before I sound like I'm contradicting myself to people who don't think, I have a very specific definition of what a panic is. In order for there to be a Satanic Panic, yes, you need literal panic in a population. Well, we're getting that. If you look at any group, I'm even seeing the most rational people. Like I watch a guy, I'm not saying he's the most rational, but I watch a guy, Stephen Turley, right? And he did a video recently about our demons, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like this guy never talks about this shit. Never. He's a very rational, down-to-earth political science guy. And he's talking about like a lot of Christian shit lately. It's pretty funny. A lot of these people are coming to Jesus all of a sudden, like they're scared shitless. I find that pretty funny. So there is a lot of people that are pointing at what's going on and saying they're Satanists because they have seeded in their own mythology that this is what Satanists are like. And so they're pointing at these people who, I'm not into objective good or evil, but I'll use the word evil. These evil fuckers that are, you know, the Ghislaine Maxwells, the pedophiles, the rapists, the people who are trying to take over the world, the globe, whatever you want to call them. These people are exhibiting all the classic hallmarks of bad guys in the upper levels. It's totally undeniable. Like you scratch the surface and you find, you know, what did I hear about Klaus Schwab that, of course, Snopes said wasn't true? Klaus Schwab's father, the rumor is that he was a close associate with Hitler, which they said was false, but it still turns out the motherfucker worked for was a key supplier to the Nazi party. And he wasn't no Schindler's List guy that made shit break. He was very happy to help the Nazis. Oh boy. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what I read. So anyway, back to what I'm saying. You only have to scratch the surface and you see exactly what I'm talking about. Where it's not an exaggeration for people to go, why are they every time? Are they a fucking groomer, a pedophile, or something like that? You all know very well, I have got zero fucks and problems to give to LGBT people. I mean, look at my best friend online is Flesh Priest. I don't have a bone in my body that goes, how dare you be gay? Oh my God, that's so bad. Pearl Club. It never registers in my mind. Like, that's not an issue for me. I look at a person as a person. I don't have to try. It's just what I do. But I draw a line between, you know, when you got a little kid, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, you got no business, like, look, I don't want straight parents telling my kid what sex is about or gender is about. I want them to just leave the kid alone. Teach him math and shit, right? There's this real weird effort going on to really bring out the worst in our society right now. And it's really gross. I know all about Paperclip. In fact, I know about Paperclip. Not to go off on a tangent, I want to get back to what I'm saying. I know all about Paperclip, Operation Paperclip, because Lyme disease started about 20 miles out from my house. And the mythology, which I believe 100%, is that it's a Nazi scientist came here, that Lyme disease was a project they were working on. They brought it over here and it got out of a lab right at the end of Long Island here. And so we got it all over the place. Like, anyway, back to what I'm saying. If grooming is in any way an LGB issue, then I'm not an LGB ally anymore. I'm not an LGBTQ TQ ally anymore if little children are part of that equation. I can support you. I can be your friend. I can be your ally. I can not just tolerate you. I can accept you and want to exalt you as a human being, give you every chance to be happy and live your life open and free in your sexuality, but leave those fucking kids alone. I don't see them as convergent issues. I'm not saying that if my kid is 7 years old and you're trans walking around that you can't talk to each other and like my kids should be in a bubble. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the school should have no say. School shouldn't be telling my kid what that is. Just no. Not until an appropriate age, 12, 10, 11, not like 5 or 6 guys, right? I'm going off on a tangent here, but my point is that this is all feeding into that satanic panic shit because there's a lot of nuance here. And I'm trying to, here's the thing. I'm trying to wrap a really big lasso around a topic. And I hope I'm not getting lost in the weeds. This is a really big topic. So let me reframe this a little bit. What I'm talking about is the satanic panic 2.0. What is this? Is it happening or is it not? Here's my definition of a panic. Okay. You have to have a moral panic. So you have to be worried. You then need to also have not just the population worried about it, because there's always people worried about something. That's not a panic yet. When it becomes a panic is when you also have state and corporate power backing up that panic and having things affect people. So what does that mean? Damien Eccles is a prime example of someone who was hit by the satanic panic because the state and media and everybody else colluded to frame him and make him out to be, now I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. He seems like a nice guy. I know he's getting into like Mormon shit or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. He was wrongfully accused of murder. Maybe he's done other shit. I don't know. He was wrongfully accused of murder. A population of people just going, I'm scared of Satanists everywhere and labeling everything as satanic because it's not Christian. We'll get to that in a minute. By itself is not a satanic panic. But when the government and corporations, or elements of both, now collude with fear in the population, now you've got a moral panic that does something. That's when I worry. Right now, as much as there are people screaming everything's satanic, we're not quite in a satanic panic yet. You know how I know? Because, again, I can go up to these people and be like, by the way, I'm a Luciferian and I'm on your side. They don't punch me in the face. They're happy to have my input. So what do they mean by satanic? So that's the big lasso I'm trying to draw. So what do they mean? Well, as a former Christian, I know what they mean. Christians are taught to believe that anything that is not of Christ and God is satanic. It doesn't matter how nice Santa Claus is as a tradition. In their mind, it's still satanic. The real puritanical, hardcore, fundamentalist Christians, Santa Claus is fucking satanic and has to go. Then you got the softer Christians who still use a similar definition, but they're not as strict about it. They'll give Santa Claus a pass because they see him as just a mythical figure and nobody believes in him really. And it's not evil and it's blah, 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 blah. You know, it's a cute little child thing. So they don't see that as Satan. They don't see that as satanic. So they will label anything that is not of Judeo-Christian lore to be satanic. That means Hellenistic paganism, Norse paganism. Interestingly enough, a lot of Christians are getting buddy-buddy with Norse stuff. I find that funny. I find that interesting. You know, because if you go into Norse heathenry, there is a big anti-Christian like mentality there too. They look at like Christians like, you know, look at Tyr, look at the band Tyr, and they have that song about what is it? Like hold the heathen hammer high and I don't know, there's one where they make fun of Jesus. Anyway, you get my point. Santa is my favorite satanic home invader, right? Of course, they're talking about the Christianized version of Santa, but The Christianized version of Santa, of course, is stolen from Norse mythology. Of course, it's supposed to be Woden, or some people would say Thor. I mean, I guess it depends on which version of the myth you're talking about. But yeah. So Christians will look at what's going on, and if they even catch a whiff that these people practice other religions. You do have Epstein. When you go to Epstein Island, why did the guy have like Babylonian shit going on? Why did he have what looked like old Babylonian, like motifs going on? What was that all about? What's the owl in Bohemian Grove? I know it's Minerva. It's not Moloch. I don't know why Alex Jones went to Moloch. I don't know what the fuck that's about. But, it's supposed to be Minerva's owl. So they're going, oh, this is all Satanism. It's all satanic. They're Satanists. They have to be. This is all satanic. Well, remember, this is what they look at, and it's the most horrible thing they can call something. And in their worldview, they're not entirely wrong. As a former Christian, I can tell you that a big part of me goes, yeah, I get your point. If I still believed what you believe of what Satan is, if I'm going by the unofficial lore of Christianity, which would be, Paradise Lost. Everybody's idea of Satan and Lucifer comes from Paradise Lost. If you talk to a Christian and you ask them who Satan and Lucifer is, they're basically going to tell you the story of Paradise Lost. I find that really funny, it's not a biblical text. It has nothing to do with the Bible. The Bible doesn't even talk about this character at all, hardly. The little bit that it does, it's in a totally different light than all of the mythology surrounding it. So their cultural reference of Satan is this character from Paradise Lost, a John Milton character, or a little bit of Dante, right? The divine parody, and I mean the divine comedy, whatever, and Infernus and all that. So this is where their idea of like Satan comes from. Gage, I'm going to talk about the EA thing because that wasn't a satanic panic move. That was not. I know it looked like it on the surface. Their angle was that he was a Nazi. Had nothing to do with him being satanic. That didn't bother them. Not one fucking bit. What they did was they tried to conflate Satanism and Nazism a little bit, because that makes a big fucking headline. The reason why YouTube and everybody took him down was because of the tenuous links when he was 19 years old to what I guess is a far right hate group. I guess, what he wrote for, he talks about, he's open about, like, hey, I was stupid. I wrote this. That's where my head was at back then. I'm not that anymore. That's not what I do. I was writing stuff. I was angsty. I was abused, all this other shit. I wrote this edgy teenage shit. How many edgy teenagers have you ever met, and what kind of shit did they write, and did they turn out okay? A lot of them turned out fine. I did. I wrote some pretty heinous shit when I was, nothing racist necessarily, but definitely some bloody shit when I was 18, okay? I had a lot of chips on my shoulder when I was 18. He probably had more than I did. So because he fell in with a group of, we'll admit it, they look like Nazi people to me, I guess, on some level. That is an easy target for them. Yeah, Temple of Blood. That's right, Twilight. That's what they were called. The reason they took him down so hard was because of that. Wasn't the Satan stuff so much as the main reason they might have attacked the Satan side a little bit is because the actual real deal Satanists, I don't know about the Satanic Temple people, the actual left-hand path doesn't like what they're doing either. There's a lot of woke fools that have sort of infiltrated the left-hand path circle. If you look in the left-hand path society, community, whatever you want to call it, loose association, the people who are left-hand path, wokeism has started to infiltrate it. It's failing pretty badly because a lot of people that are left-hand path see that as that's not us. Even though we have some of the same ideas in terms of we are very accepting, we're very sex positive, all that stuff. Wokeism is a different animal than just being tolerant or positive about human behavior, right? Being a humanist and looking at people and going, it's not wrong to be a hornball and have sex as long as you're not hurting anybody, right? That's not woke. Woke goes 10 steps further than that. And so the woke shit's trying to infiltrate the left-hand path. And they're trying to colonize the left-hand path, and it's not working very well because the actual left-hand path people are going, yeah, no, you're not part of this. And even if they end up sort of shifting away from it and creating their new left-hand path community, that's what's happening. It's sort of, fine, you can pretend you're left-hand path. We're not that uptight. You can pretend you're left-hand. You're not, by the way, but you can pretend you are. Left-hand path people and woke don't mix. They don't mix at all. It's oil and water. Doesn't mix at all. I know you got some people, I'm not going to name them, but they got a channel a little bit bigger than mine, that were partially responsible for the EA co-editing thing, by the way. They were at least involved in it. They certainly were cheerleading it. They're pretty damn fucking woke. And they got a pretty decent sized audience. But they are left-hand path in name only, in my opinion. That's just how I see it. They're very much caught up in quite the opposite. If you're playing moralistic games and woke games and all that, that's kind of the opposite of left-hand path. Left-hand path version of morality is more agnostic about what good and evil actually is. If it has an opinion about it at all, it is that it is more of like a humanist perspective. And that good and evil is more of a relationship. It's not an objective thing. And, you know, left-hand path doesn't mean that you do evil for evil's sake. Left-hand path simply means that you try not to judge based on that, you know. Interestingly enough, left-hand path people are actually more forgiving in a way than Christians ever will be. And yet our motto is not to turn our cheek, right? It's interesting. So, all right, so let's go back to that, to the Christians, you know, Moral Panic 2.0. By the way, what's up, Necro-Nikki? What's going on? I just noticed you. So many woke LHPers. I think there's a lot of LHPers. I should say, excuse me. There are a lot of woke people that call themselves LHP, but I haven't met a single LHP person who's woke. Does that make sense? I hate to play the no true Scotsman thing, but you kind of can because of what LHP kind of means. It's not, it doesn't really go well with woke. It really doesn't. Not what I call woke. They don't go together very well. You'll get some woke people claiming to be LHP. I don't see it. I've never met someone who is like, oh, they're LHP and they're woke. That's an interesting mix. It would be like being a Christian who likes to, well, you know, sodomize little children in a church. It's kind of what it'd be like. I know I'm being a little bit crude there, but it doesn't go well. It doesn't fit. The two don't fit together. You can't be a puritanical moralist who looks at things with a neo-puritanical mindset of how dare you say that and be on the left-hand path. You just kind of can't. Left-hand path is anti-taboo in so many ways. That doesn't mean that there are things that you do or don't do. Like, doesn't mean you don't have ethics. Ethics and taboos are a little different. A taboo is like you get offended because someone said the wrong pronoun. That's a taboo. LHP people, I'm not saying they don't have boundaries. I'm not saying they don't have ethics. I'm saying they don't have taboos. I know that's like, it sounds like word games, but if you understand the meaning of these words, it makes total sense. Taboos are a moralistic, knee-jerk, emotional response. They're not a thinking response. It is not a pragmatic response. It is fear and loathing. And it's totally different animal. So the Satanic Panic 2.0 that you see, it actually serves a very interesting purpose. As someone who studies human behavior and history as part of my focus of magic and things like that, being someone who works with shadow people and all that stuff, human behavior is a big part of it. And as I look at the world, and this is what I'm seeing, okay? Globalism represents a few things. Let's see if I can illustrate this. When I'm talking about globalism, a lot of people don't really know what that actually is. They hear it like New World Order, globalist, the Illuminati or some shit, which is nonsense. They hear this and their mind fills with just a group of people trying to take over the world. Fair enough. But globalism, at its core, is a kind of homogenization of the world, because you need to bring all of these disparate cultures and people and ethnicities and histories and traditions, you need to bring them all under one roof. And the more different we are, the weirder that roof has to look. And they can't build a roof that's custom fit to everybody in the world. So what they've got to do is they've got to basically flatten the curvature of this world's culture. They've got to make everybody as similar as they can, using similar language, similar ethos, similar this, similar that. They've got to erode all sense of nationalism, all sense of individuality. You know, everyone is equally good. No one can be bad, except when they say it. Everyone's got to have equity rather than equality, right? You got to have the same outcome, not just the same starting conditions. They don't believe in the idea that two trees can grow to different heights. They want to make sure they're both the same height. Even if that's 2 feet tall, they don't care so long as they're equal. So globalism requires a squishing. Think of globalism sort of like Jurassic Park. And this is going to be a hard sell for some people. Think of it like Jurassic Park. If you ever watch the movie Jurassic Park or read the book, there's a scene where the one mathematician guy says, you know, nature finds a way. In reference to the idea that Jurassic Park tried to take nature and put it in a bottle and keep it a certain way and make it act a certain way and tried to have nature in a pen, but still be nature. So nature can't be nature if it's in a zoo, right? Well, the globalists are sort of trying to create a world zoo. And humanity, being a natural animal, is saying, fuck you, I don't want this shit. We're too dirty, we're too complicated, we're too different. So globalists want to flatten humanity into a system of people without a national identity, with a very limited personal identity, without family ties. They basically want to do to you what the Soviets did and what the Chinese do and all these things. They want to remove everything that's not the state. And they can't do that all at once. It takes time. So you have to subvert every element of culture. You have to subvert religion. You have to subvert nationality. You have to subvert sex and gender and everything in the target culture. Now, are they doing it equally to every culture? No. Are they doing it a lot to America? Yeah. Yes, they are. America's like one of the last bastions that's saying no on some level. Everybody else is like leaning over for it. I have friends, some of them former friends in Europe, that are like, oh, well, you know, this is fine. I don't care. Like, oh, well, you know, fine. Walk into the wood chipper history. I don't care, but you're not taking me with you. So they want to flatten out. They want to hammer out all of these differences. They want as much homogeneity in our world as possible. So what is the natural response to that? The natural response to that is the reinvigoration of identity, nationalism, traditional values, conservatism. Yes, even libertarianism, because libertarianism is actually becoming a conservative value at this point. When the alternative is homogenized, progressive, woke bullshit, libertarian looks pretty conservative, interestingly enough. I get called a conservative, even though I don't really see myself as one. So the natural response against globalism is to invigorate those sectors of society that have been destroyed or damaged or brought down. And one of the strongest, perhaps the strongest in history, is religion. This is why you see this tremendous revival amongst Christians. This is why Alex Jones, who, if you know him at all, if you've been watching him for years and know even a little bit of his back life that goes on, he's got like now a crackhead wife and all this shit. The guy is about as Christian as I am. But boy, does he talk a good Christian game, because Christianity doesn't require that you be perfect. You just have to go to church on Sunday and say, please, Jesus, I'm a work in progress. Please give me my Mercedes-Benz. Doesn't require you to do anything, really. Just say, please forgive me. So anybody can pretend to be a Christian. Donald Trump can pretend. You think Donald Trump's an actual Christian, guys? Give me a break. You think half of these people are actually real Christians? Give me a break. Some of them are reacting that way. Some of them are looking at this like, I need Christianity to save me. You know, I'm afraid maybe this is real. Maybe they are real. Maybe Satan is real, and that's what the globalists are. All right, relax. You know, maybe that's what you believe. And, you know, maybe, you know, I'm not saying it couldn't be. I'm just saying probably not. You know, I think it's kind of funny. So the natural inclination, the panacea, if you know what that word means, the panacea to globalism is a revival of traditional values, which means religion, which means nationalism, etc. It actually is. Now, for those of you guys who knows your history, can anyone else, I'm going to ask you guys in the comments, some of you guys, maybe Wyatt knows. I have a feeling Wyatt knows. What was the last group of people in the 20th century to try to do the same thing? What was the last group of people who sort of did the same thing as an attempt to be a powerful nation in Europe in the 40s and 30s? I just narrowed it down real small. Who was the last group? Give me a comment. See if anybody knows. Who was the last group that did that? And then you'll start to see why they have started to paint everybody that they oppose as that thing. So let's see if anybody gets it. I gave you every clue you'll ever need. Who am I talking about? Anybody know? Wyatt says, I know what I'm seeing. A likely story. No, definitely not the Soviets, Gage. Absolutely not. Not everything's red's under the bed. No, there was really only one side. One group of people. Heckelitzen, nice. Heckelitzen gets it first. Does it rhyme with Yahtzee? Yes, it does. Necronicki, yes. Starts with N's. Yes. Yahtzee with an N. The Axis powers. All of the nations that were involved in the Axis powers, especially Germany and Italy, had a major revival of traditional culture in response to what they saw as the threat of the world, because they realized that if they could instill in their population a sense of nationalism, a sense of whatever, that they could thwart and fight what they saw, what Hitler saw as the enemy. Now, that's not touching on the whole Holocaust thing. I'm not gonna stick my finger in that. You know, that's a verboten topic no matter which culture you're in. That pisses people off even if they agree with you. So we're not going to talk about that. But this is why the globalists are now pointing at people resisting them and calling them Nazis, even though they're not. Because the last group of people that tried to reinvigorate sort of an identity that was separate from the globe were them, or people like them. So they're pointing at that and going, see, they're no different. They're nationalists because they don't want to be part of our global civilization. Oh, look at their religiosity. Look at how backwards they are. The Nazis used to do that shit. So they bang that drum at us endlessly. Endlessly. And it's worked on the minds of the susceptible. There's something that I was really ironic. When I was a young man, being a kid who loved history, that was my best subject of history and social studies. A lot of my friends would come to me for help for that. I'd be failing out of school, literally, like I had to do summer school every year. I'd have grade A students going on to big colleges asking me questions about these things. And I have something ironic for you. When I was growing up, every one of my friends that have become a woke left Marxist, Bernie bro, AOC fan, every single one of them, to a man, to a woman, had very, very, very interesting, shall we say, apologetic attitudes towards the Nazis. And I quote, one of my friends says, you know, the Nazis weren't that bad except for that Holocaust thing that they did. I was a Jewish friend of mine, and he's about as left as you can get right now. So their big problem with them wasn't that they were this authoritarian system of fascists. That didn't bother them. What bothered them was the Holocaust, which, yeah, was bad. Don't get me wrong. But it's kind of like, you It's kind of like, tell me you don't mind authoritarian fascism without telling me you don't mind authoritarian fascism. And the only reason that you weren't okay with it was because of the Holocaust. Dude, you should be mad at both. Like that, if you really are an anti-fascist, you really should have a problem with both sides of that. Oh, well, the Nazis were very organized and they really structured society well, and everybody knew their place. It was I have to admire that. Like, whoa, holy shit, man. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Like, that actually happened. Like, people actually said that. I don't remember thinking that when I was that back then. I don't remember thinking that. I remember thinking like, both of those are bad, dude. Both of those are bad. Like so you're fine with like Gestapos and shit? Oh, well, no. This is where the frustration sets in a little bit. Blatant cloak. I wish I could, I should. It's legal here pretty much here now, or at least it's not illegal. So if I did a stream stone, it would be the most stupid thing, and you guys probably love it. Wyatt asked the question, how has this all gotten to this point? How on earth are so many people completely ignorant of all these things that are going on? Have you seen the fucking children? Okay, let me tell you something, brother. I have been watching this stuff for 15 or 20 years now, and I really started to get it like almost 15 years ago. It was like 2009-ish, I guess. And I can tell you that the reason why it has gotten to this point is a cocktail of subversion that to see it all at once will make you go blind if you're not ready for it. And when I say blind, I mean blind with rage, with sorrow, with confusion. Gage, you just fucking made me laugh. Gage says, imagine DH just showed up on the street with a 4-foot bomb ready to ram. Alex Jones was right. Yeah, that'd be some shit. I've been watching this for a long time. And when I had the awakening to what was going on, I remember I couldn't sleep for like 3 days, 2 days. I was watching, that was like when 9/11 Truth was a big deal. You had like Loose Change and all that. I was watching those things. I was watching some of the Alex Jones movies. I was researching. I'm like, okay, well, Alex Jones was wrong about this, but there's evidence for that. That's fucked up. So that's why I sort of got the motto, if Alex Jones is 50% right, we're 110% fucked. And I think he's more than 50% right, because I would look and I'd be like, okay, he's exaggerating here, but he's right in the direction. He's wrong in the magnitude, but right in the vector, right? He's right in the direction. It's just what he's saying, you can't prove as easily, but it's obvious. And when you put it all together as one big, as one big thing, is the pattern is so obvious. Like that's why it always kind of wobbles my mind a little bit. Like, how can you not look at everything with an even hand and not see at least part of it? Yeah, I know that there's people who think that there is no good guy side. I have friends who they're like, yeah, there's the globalists, but Trump is working for them. He's actually the controlled opposition. All right, maybe. I'm not in a cult. I'm willing to entertain that possibility. The problem is that on some level, you got to cling to something. You got to work towards something. I can't just sit here on my hands and go, well, he might be working with them because that's the only thing that. So anyway, back to the topic. So how did they do this? They did it with a cocktail of things, a lot of subversive efforts. It starts back in the 50s and 60s, if not earlier. Once upon a time, it was considered very much in vogue for learned people, or everybody, Yeah, let's say the man of the house, right? Let's go there. Okay, let's go there. It was a patriarchal thing, okay? I'm not saying that's right, but let's go there. Once upon a time, the man of the house and the men of the village and the men of the culture would get together and they would talk politics. And the men would voice their opinion. The women sometimes would join in, and people would talk politics. And it was considered highbrow conversation, and they would do this. And they would do it without shame. Somewhere along the way, someone decided to make it too controversial to talk politics and religion and spirituality. It became offensive to be different in your opinion because the rhetoric that was being used has always been abusive. If you look back in the 1800s or the 1900s or whatever era you want to look, and you look at political rivals, the shit that they would say back then, some of that would make Trump and the current people blush a little bit. Like when you think of how bad the stuff, when people were clutching their pearls because Trump would make fun of an opponent. If you go back 60, 70, 80, 100 years, you'd see just as bad, if not 1,000 times worse. Like the gloves would come off. They would say some horrible shit. Yeah, maybe they were saying it in a proper way. They didn't use curses or whatever, but they weren't being nice. They weren't just saying the person's a bad politician, be like, and then their mother is a such and so. They were saying horrible shit. We've never had the best decorum. Anyway, so people once upon a time could talk about these things over the dinner table, and it was a normal thing for people to talk and dispute and to have opinions about these things, and it wasn't seen as the worst thing in the world. Now we've gotten to the point where you cannot talk about these things with family or friends, for the most part, without driving them away. Maybe that's why my channel hasn't been doing so well. Maybe it's why it's doing better in some other ways. I don't know. I mean, I still got 50 plus people watching my stream, so I must be doing something right. People have gotten to the point where they're afraid to talk about these things, except for one side. What you guys would collectively call the left, the woke side, has become emboldened and doesn't mind speaking their mind in a very kind of hurtful way. And it's driven the other side into submission until recently, until the last 2-3 years or so. If you weren't woke and progressive and all this stuff, you kept your mouth shut at the dinner table. Ninurta 360, my great-grandfather was a 33rd degree Mason and a Shriner. He built an entire town. He was one of the wealthiest people on the planet. I have some friends that are working on becoming 33rd degree Masons, interestingly enough. Trump's uncle took Tesla's stuff. That's actually an interesting tidbit too. So again, not saying that these are good people. I don't play this game where Trump is a saint trying to save us. I think Trump is basically he's looking at globalism and saying, yeah, I don't want globalism. I want power, but I don't want globalism. I think that's the difference. I think he wants America to be like it was, and he wants his family and his legacy to be associated with another American exceptionalist future. That's what he wants. Is that right or wrong? Well, sorry, that's a lot closer to the direction I want to go. Globalism to me is a meat grinder. What he wants is a bumpy road and it's got problems, but it's a hell of a lot better than the meat grinder of globalism. Globalism is basically Soviet Union for the world. Globalism is basically, that's why people equate it to communism. It's not communism. Globalism is not Marxism. It uses Marxist mind virus language, but it also uses capitalist mind virus language. If you really pay attention, you'll see that the globalists, they pick and choose which parts of the two that they want to employ at any given time to keep you off your feet. So you don't know, so you're always on your back foot, so you don't know what you're attacking. You'll have like hardcore corporatist people on the right that are globalists. that are working for the same plan that the people on the left are doing. So you get the one side spewing Marxist bullshit, and the other side, they're not spewing actual capitalist bullshit. They're spewing corporatist bullshit, which to the uneducated people, this is that other subversive element, is the education system. The education system has labeled corporatism a version of capitalism, or as late stage capitalism. Capitalism in its truest sense was never really done in this country. We got close when we were founded and through the 1800s quite a ways, but we veered away from it. Standard Oil was the end of what I would consider actual capitalism. When the Standard Oil thing happened and they broke up Standard Oil, that was the end of anything resembling actual capitalism. And they did that because they created the problem that they had to fix. They gave Standard Oil special privileges. If you guys know your history, I mean, know your history of Standard Oil, probably not. Standard Oil was basically, if you look this up, the people involved are the people involved now. Standard Oil was this oil company during the beginning of the Industrial Revolution that basically put America, made America its bitch, because America couldn't buy oil unless they went through Standard Oil. But the reason that happened was because America gave Standard Oil a lot of advantages. They called it favored status. So once America started doing that, capitalism was already over at that point. Actual capitalism ended at that point. Free market capitalism ended at that point. So when that happened, you started to have a situation where the government started not to have a laissez-faire attitude about industry and economics. Government now decided, hey, we're going to tell you what you can do. Now, on the one side, the progressive left-hand side says that's a good thing. The government should stop these out-of-control corporations. From the perspective of protecting human rights and enforcing contract law, yes. From the other perspective, where you're telling industries things like, you know, when the federal government can start telling you whether you can grow corn or not, for, you know, economic reasons and shit, you're starting to get into weird territory. That's not capitalism, that's corporatism. Because corporations are the ones who lobby the government to have the laws and regulations that they want. This is why the laws and regulations work the way they do. Correct. Inexperientially correct. We've never had a true free market system. Never. At least not in America anyway. And I don't think it ever happened anywhere else, you know. But we've also never had true communism either. So there's an argument to be made there. You know, maybe if we tried both, I think in a truly free society, the communist would be content unless their ambition was authoritarianism. A true anarcho-communist would have no problem with my civilization because they would be allowed to create whatever commune system they wanted, providing it was voluntary. So long as people could come and go and leave that system at will, I'm fine with it. You want to be a hardcore Marxist? Go for it. You want to have everybody earn things and put it into a pot and share it equally? Fine. As soon as you make it centralized, though, and where people can't get out of it, you're causing problems. That's coercion. You get problems now. You're going to have a problem. I'm just warning you. You're creating authoritarian incentive. I'm just telling you. But anyway. The Dutch was a yeah, I think it was. I have to look it up again. I haven't gone through my Mises shit and all that. I haven't, you know, I've sort of like, I got into it for a little bit and then I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. But right now I have bigger fish to fry than what economic system I want to vote for. Except that I sort of know enough to know which one I prefer. But yeah. So they ended capitalism, what little capitalism we had, whatever version of capitalism we had that was freer, ended the moment Standard Oil happened, the beginning all the way through that event. Once you get into the economic collapses, you get to the Jekyll Island shit, 1913, you get to 1933, people are talking about the stop being backed by gold and silver, really stopped under Nixon, right? Nixon, I think, was the final nail, or was that, I forget that, I'm a little fuzzy on that one. But yeah, so we got off the gold standard. That was the final. At that point, anybody who knows anything knows that it's only a matter of time before what's happening happens. It's not hard to foresee. It's really not. Yeah, I don't know enough about the Dutch Renaissance. If, I might have to do some research on that. From what little I remember, you're right. I'll have to do some snooping on that just to get refreshed on it. I've been way too into occult stuff for years. All right, so you have all of these different things. So they have to subvert, number one, people's ability to communicate about these things. They have to subvert the education system so that people aren't dealing with the right facts, or if they are, they're dealing with facts that are sort of censored and controlled and shaped and framed a certain way. To give an example, like my son came home from learning about the Civil War, and the poor soul, he's like in 3rd grade, and he came home guilty as shit. I'm like, what's the matter, dude? He's like, because I'm not kidding you, okay? He basically felt guilty for being white. And I was livid immediately. I'm like, why? Did the teacher tell you to, like, well, no, but, when they told us all about all the things white people did, I'm like, oh, here we go. So they didn't tell you to feel bad, but they certainly framed it in a way that you should feel bad, right? Well, kind of. I mean, they never said it, but, I felt really responsible. I'm like, well, what did you, I'm not saying that you should, don't, people are going to take this out of context. They're going to hear what I'm saying and be like, oh, you don't care. I do care. But that doesn't mean my son did it. My son should have no guilt over this. This isn't something my son should have no more guilt over this than a Jewish person should have for the death of Jesus from a Christian getting mad at them. It's ridiculous. And he came home with guilt, and I had to spend like an hour or two trying to deprogram that guilt out of him and show him that, look, you didn't do that. Well, I sort of benefit from it. Do you really? Do you feel like you're benefiting right now with that guilt complex you just built up? I don't think so. Tell you what, if you feel bad, then just promise to yourself that you're never going to treat a person of color different than you. That's all. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense. That's the sensible, rational way to deal with something like that. Not this other shit, right? So they get everybody twisted up about these moral things, about race and color and gender and all that. That's another weapon. That's another subversive angle. Because, as I've said before, all the best subversive activities target something in a culture that is broken. Every single one of them does. They'll target different things in different cultures, but they will find the weakest link in a culture and target that. And that is almost always a legitimate problem. So, for example, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, when I was much younger, we actually really did have a problem with actual racism. Especially between blacks and whites, it wasn't very good, okay? Once we got around the 90s, though, that problem was just about, the boomers, as what you guys would call boomers, would have been like the grandparents. So that would have been like the greatest generation people. The oldest boomers and the great generation people were still pretty damn racist. The saying was, if you're over 60, you're probably racist in the 90s. And it's true. Even over 40 or 50, you were probably racist in the 90s. Nowadays, it's like if you're over 70, you're probably actual racist now. Still. So in the 90s, it was starting to pretty much get better. By the turn of the millennium, it was pretty much like the whole idea of actual racism was kind of like you'd have to go into the enclaves where racists were still hanging out. If you were just in the average population, you probably didn't have to worry about racism anymore. Certainly not on the coasts, certainly not in the cities, certainly not in the suburbs like where I lived. Yes, you still had, the minority neighborhoods and this and that, and that's still a thing today. That doesn't change. But the feeling of that person's black, so I don't like them. That person's white, so I don't like them. That was pretty much, for pretty much all the Gen X kids, that was pretty much a thing that was gone. Not gone. I mean, I don't want to make it seem like a total victory, but it was definitely on its way out. Like you could see it had a boot print on its ass and it was stumbling out the door. It really wasn't going to be. So a good subversive will target an actual problem, which for America was racism, which for America was bigotry towards people with different genders and sexual orientations and shit. You will target the disparity between the rich and the poor. You will target actual problems for your subversive element. You will offer solutions to that. And at first, you'll probably do a lot of actual good because you will start to crack open that problem and people will have to see it as a problem because a subversive is trying to make you hate your culture. That's what a subversive does. But it is often an actual problem. Racism is still a problem. Maybe not the problem that it was in the 70s and 80s, but it is still a problem. And so the subversives will target that problem. But they don't stop with correcting the problem. So this ties into wokeism. What is wokeism? Wokeism is the continuation of that original process. It begins by asking for tolerance. Fair. Then it begins by humanizing the people that have been dehumanized. Here, I'm with you. Then it starts saying, well, because they have been dehumanized so long, we have to treat them special. I don't know about this. Now they're beyond reproach. You can't say, if someone's got a rainbow flag, you have to tell them that they are specialer than anybody else because they've been abused. I'm not okay with this. What are you doing? Are you a bigot? No, I just don't think that they get special privilege because of their orientation any more than I do. If I'm not special for my orientation, why are they special for theirs? Why can't we just treat each other like human beings? What's going on here? Why? You're a bigot. That's your problem. You must be a racist too. You see how this goes? That's how it goes. And they push 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 and they push. They drive a wedge into an actual problem until it breaks the column of the support of the foundation of the culture apart. You start with, yes, you have actual problem racism. You recognize that's a problem. You start to deal with it, but that's not good enough. Now you have to destroy the country that had racism. You can no longer like the founding fathers because some of them owned slaves. Like the whole thing, the whole government that they set up, the whole constitution's negated because they had slaves. Because they might have been hypocritical in some way. Anything that they said that was good is now bad. That is a mind virus. That's a sophistry. It's not rational. But when your population is dumbed down, can't talk, has no way to communicate, their language is destroyed, you can't rectify it easily. Now, what else do you need on top of that? Well, you also need the glorification of ignorance and weakness. My generation in particular is when this really started to hit hard. They started to make fun of people who cared about the world. This is why you can often tell that I sort of get a little snarky with people that go, well, if you're so spiritual, why do you care? Why don't you? I put pictures up of Buddhists with machine guns because they're worried about Muslims or whatever attacking their village. Aren't Buddhists not supposed to care about anything? No, of course they are. It's not. Being spiritually enlightened doesn't mean you don't care. Well, it's just not cool to talk politics, man. You know, you're ruining my mood. I'm not talking politics anymore. I'm talking about an existential threat, fool. I'm talking about a hurricane coming down on top of you. You notice I didn't bring it up until 2020, right? You notice that I was able to be D.H. Thorne perfectly well and content until 2020 happened. Why? Because that's when they decloaked and took a shot. And I'm like, all right, it's time. I got to start talking about this. I can't just be quiet anymore. I can't just make you feel good by not talking about the shit that's going on. You need to see it. And if you trust my judgment and my sagely advice, I don't get it all right, but if you trust the direction of my judgment, you need to listen to me. I know all of you guys generally do. But I'm hoping that by listening to me, you'll go out there and you'll say to people, hey, you know what? Not for nothing. Do you see what's going on though? Do you see how all the things that the conspiracy theorist people have been saying, like if we were doing like a checkbox of what they got right, they're doing way better than average. They like you ever hear that scientific thing? Like if ESP was real, that they would have a certain amount that's better than average. Can you tell that the conspiracy theorist guys are being proven right now more and more rapidly? Like once upon a time, it was like 6 years. It would take like 6 years between the, that's right, Twilight, well said. Such a person has deadened themselves into a false nirvana. Bingo! Remember what I said earlier. If you can't find enlightenment in the middle of a crisis, you still ain't there yet. All right. If you take all the things, it used to be 6 years was the turnaround between a conspiracy theory being uttered and it turning out to be kind of true, because it took a while for all the details to come out. And by the time 6 years was up, only the people who were like diehard no CD like me actually still remembered it. Now, then it went from like 6 years to like 2 or 3, then it's 6 months. Now it's getting to be like 6 fucking days. It's turning out to be like 6 days between conspiracy theory and fact now. And it's really kind of funny. What's it going to be, 6 hours next? Holy shit. That's right, Necronicki. And the ones that were theories were actually, so like flat earth, that's an injection. They inject that to make us sound crazy. I even feel like Alex Jones, that might be his job, was to make all of that sound too crazy. I don't know if that's true though. I'm of this weird thing where I don't know if Alex Jones is like the greatest or the worst. I don't know if he is legit or he's just insane. I don't know which it is, but I do know that if it wasn't for Alex Jones, I wouldn't know this stuff, because Alex Jones was entertaining. And it was like one of those things where I watched Alex Jones because like life was boring and like I didn't know much, and someone just like, here, watch this lunatic. And I watched it, like, yeah, it's pretty funny. And I was like, well, you know what? I like kind of like horror movies, and I love Art Bell, and I love all that shit. And this is kind of like Art Bell, but for government stuff. So I started watching Alex Jones, and then as I did, I'm like, this can't be real. I started looking stuff up. Well, that was kind of real. All right, that wasn't 100%, but it's like 50%. That's crazy. Just that much is true? Wow, that's crazy. And as that started to add up, I started to become, I got converted, right? I got converted to realizing what's going on because I saw the bigger picture unfolding slowly. And I thought, well, maybe it won't happen, but I'm going to keep myself informed, and I'm going to take certain precautions. That's how I coped with it. And from, when Trump got elected, I thought, well, once he got elected and started actually carrying out his promises, I thought to myself, well, I guess that New World Order is bullshit, because they would never let a guy like Trump be president. And as they tried to impeach him over and over, I'm like, all right, so they're flailing. They're not doing a good job. Well, I guess they're not that special after all. Then 2020 happened, and I realized, okay, this is totally real, completely real. Yeah, Nikki says, I think Alex is both an elite whose part is to drop bits of info and rub it in our face. It could be, like I've often said, why do you think he got into Bohemian Grove so easily? Why do you think they never show that part in that movie? Oh, we don't want to give away how we did it and get people in trouble. Sure. You show everything. You talk about shit that nobody would talk about your own personal life. You tell me you wouldn't take a video of how you got in? Yeah, right. You wouldn't show us any of that? Yeah, right. So I don't know. There's even that video where he's encountering, I forget who it is, a congressman or senator or somebody, and he confronts him like, oh, I've been to Bohemian Grove, and the guy's like, you've betrayed our trust, because he doesn't even see it as strange that Alex Jones would be a member, and then Alex Jones is like, I'm not a member, I snuck in. And you guys got to watch. You know what we should do? One of these days on the Discord channel, I actually want to watch 2 things. I want to watch Year Zero, and I want to get Fleshy and me, and we're gonna do like a good movie night. But I want to watch the Bohemian Grove special with Alex Jones sometime on the Discord. I think that would be really fucking fun. I really think that would be fucking fun. Hecka's right. He has to be, or would have gotten Clinton by now. I don't know, right? I mean, that's a valid point of view. Yeah. Valid point of view. I can't argue with it. Maybe he would have. Maybe his excuse is that I've already exposed everything, so they can't kill me now because there's no point. It just validates what I said. But I've even thought, the whole de-personing of Alex Jones seemed like a setup too. I don't know. Pretty crazy shit. All right. I think I've talked politics enough. I've talked politics enough, and it's not politics, it's existential threats. I've talked enough about that. The thing you have to realize, though, is that they have been working on this for so long that you wouldn't see it happening. They've made it so that you're not supposed to. It's not cool to notice. And, it's kind of like, think of it like this, okay? I've had a lot of I've been trying to create a little cartoon in my head of how I would make a meme to show this. You have to think about what does a cat do? It'll stalk its prey, and it'll walk very slowly till it gets within striking distance and then jump. That's kind of what they did. They've boiled the frog slowly. They've stalked up on us. So only crazy people like me notice it. Maybe it's because I'm hypersensitive because of my childhood. Things went bad in a lot of ways. So I notice when people are lying to me. So, maybe I notice it quicker than other people. But they've been moving very slowly and they've been lying so effectively up until recently that it's honestly, without Trump, half of you guys probably watching me didn't know any of this stuff was real until like 2020 happened, right? A lot of people will suddenly say, "Oh, well, I've always suspected," but no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't know. You maybe heard about it. Yeah, and you might have thought, well, wouldn't that be some crazy shit? Then 2020 happened. You're like, oh, real shit? This is real? Uh-oh. And the whole world changed at that point. And the whole world changed at that point. And you started going, wait a minute, maybe there's something to this. And now literally they have everything at the last Davos meeting, all of this shit that everyone said would never happen. They're going to microchip everybody. You're going to get carbon tax passes and all this shit. Social credit score shit's coming up. All this shit's starting to come out as like, that is the plan, guys. Just so you know, that's the actual plan, because we're setting the agenda, because WEF says that they control it all and that they're the ones running the world. They're basically saying that, like in not that language. Oh, the people who are here are the ones setting the agenda for the world. Okay, motherfucker. So you're basically taking credit for everything that's going on. And your plan is to do what? You want to give us carbon credits. You want to give us microchips. You want to control what we say. Probably what? Social credit scores. You want to control how we can buy and sell. I got you. So all the shit that the conspiracy theorists said were coming is what you're planning. Either you were paying attention to the conspiracy theorists and said that sounds like a great idea, or they were right the whole time. Either way, you're doing it. Yep. 9/11, I think everybody knew something was wrong. It's just they didn't know what. I think you're right, Atropa. But you have to remember, this is so much older than any of this stuff. Probably nobody alive watching this stream. In fact, I know you're not old enough for this to be the beginning. All of this stuff is over, I'm going to say 150 years old at the very least. Everything that's happening right now was set in motion. I mean, you could go further back than that, but the real first domino was 150 years ago, give or take. I don't know anybody that old. But it was actually kicked into motion literally with a vague outline. And then as this technology developed, they've started to hammer it home. 1984 was not written by someone who just guessed, guys. 1984 was written by George Orwell, who had insider information. He meant to warn you, because it's always been their plan. 1984 was not an accident. It wasn't somebody who just predicted shit. He was in on the knowledge and he wanted to tell you. And that's how he told you, was through fiction, because nobody would believe it otherwise. Then you're doing very well, Gage. But yes, Obama was the time frame for me too. It was 2009. When Obama was first elected, I cheered. I cried. I was like, oh, finally, we can put some of this racist shit behind us a little bit. We can say, good, we got a black president. Good. Finally. I didn't vote that year. It was like the first time I didn't vote in a while. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm glad. I'm glad. Good. And I think it was a year later. And I was like, the fuck? What's this? You're going to tax me for not having health insurance, motherfucker? What? What? No, they can't do that. I remember arguing with my wife. She's like, no, that's what they're going to do. No, they can't. They can't tax you. They can't tax you for not having health. That's insane. They can't. That would mean that everybody has to pay an extra tax for nothing, just for living. That's insane. That's a life tax at that point. It's not, you're not talking about an income tax. You're not talking about you're talking about a life tax. If you're alive, you got to have health insurance or else what? You're going to kill me? And that was like when it clicked for me. I was like, this can't be right. And from that point forward, it was just a steady drip, drop, drip, drop, drip, drop of dissatisfaction. I went from being pissed at Bush, being happy at Obama, to realizing nobody was right. And oh boy, did that shit fall apart quick at that point. Oof. I think I watched Obama Deception I don't remember what year. That was the Alex Jones's movie, and that movie gave me goosebumps. Like I was scared for the first time in years. I was actually scared. Was that and like Endgame or something? I watched those, like, and I remember watching that, Loose Change, all those movies, and I wrote shit down and I researched it on Google and I found what I could find and I used other search browsers and everything. I did all this stuff to try, and too much of it was true. Even if only 50% of it is true, we're 110% fucked. And I found more than 50% of it was right. And that scared the shit out of me. Not gonna lie. So, here's the good news. They're not doing so well. They're really not. Yes, it looks really bad right now. I'm not going to lie. It looks fucking bad. The bad guys, the globalists, hold all of the reins. Here's the thing. It's not who holds the reins that controls the horses. The horses control the horses. So they hold all the reins right now. That's true. But they don't actually have the power. If they had the power, they wouldn't need the propaganda. They wouldn't need the intimidation. They wouldn't need the coercion. They do not yet have the actual power. That sounds like a cop-out at first until you realize what is starting to emerge. The giant is no longer sleeping. I was watching little tidbits of the January 6th, unselect fucking hearing bullshit. I'm watching it on their own bastions, like the PBS channel. And yes, there's more likes to dislikes, but not by the margin you would expect if this was going over well. People aren't falling for their bullshit anymore. The American population, at the very least, and many other parts of the world, eyes are open. They don't see the whole show. They're still groggy. The giant's trying to wake up. And some parts of the giant's trying to hit the snooze alarm and say, we don't want to deal with this. Trump's the bad guy. Biden's the bad guy. Blah, 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 blah. So you still got people who are blaming Biden. Like, oh, Biden's just an idiot. Oh, you fucking wish he was just an idiot. If he was just an idiot, then he'd get some things right once in a while. That motherfucker is allegedly a traitor. There's no way he's just accidentally bumbling his way through this shit. No. So when you still got people going, oh, it's just corruption, it's just Biden's fucked up. Biden isn't stupid. You're blind. He is a traitor. He's taking orders. He's acting on behalf of other people. You didn't vote for Biden. Even if you voted for him, you were voting for the people who are running him. Let me be clear. The people running things you did not vote for. He's pulling the strings. They're pulling his. So you can blame whoever you want, but unless you're looking behind the puppet, like people get all mad at Trump, like, motherfucker, Trump's the spokesman for the other team. Don't you get it? Trump is not the one with all the ideas. He's the salesman. When I was a kid, my grandmother, who came from some of the richest fucking people on the planet when she was a child, my great-grandfather was one of the richest men on earth at the time, a 33rd degree Mason himself. Built his own towns. I brought this up before. I've got newspaper clippings. I've got photo albums with the things. The richest people on earth. You know what she said to me? The salesmen are the real valuable ones. The salesmen are the ones that get paid the best. The salesmen are the ones that will be the ones who look like they're in charge of the whole store, in fact. If you own a good store, the salesman looks like the boss. Because the salesman, a good salesman kind of is the boss. The good salesman's the most important part of the business. That's what Trump is. He's the good salesman. That's all. The thing is, he's the salesman for the side that is trying to oppose globalism. He's an imperfect orange motherfucker. If I believed that he was 100% believing his own shit, I would have a different opinion of him. Will I follow him? Yes. Will I vote for him again? Yes, absolutely. Do I think he fucked up? No, because, for a minute I did. I have to admit, like, I remember when 2020 happened, I'm like, how did he let this fucking happen? How could this have happened? What the fuck? He knew this could happen. Why did he let it happen? All right, now why isn't he doing something about it? Why does it just seem like he's just whining about it? What the fuck? Well, when the entire globalist system is against you and they hold so much power, you got to take the L. I think that's what happened. I think they cheated him out of it. I think he knew it was going to happen. I'm not saying he let it happen. I'm not one of these Q people that thinks that we're going to let them rig an election and we're going to encourage them to do it. And then we're going to, no, you're not going to play dice like that. You might know that they're going to rig it and you can't stop it. And then you're going to try to do something. That's probably closer to what happened. I don't think that they were like, oh, we're going to let them rig an election. You don't let somebody rig an election. I think that they had no choice but to go with it. I like that, Wyatt. Orange Man, not good, but not that bad. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good way to put it. Pilot Shaw says, it's the Russians. Yeah, man. Fucking awesome. Fucking, I love that whole like Russiagate shit that's coming out. And of course, everyone just conveniently ignores it. I still know people who go, well, Trump's a Russian agent. I'm like, have you been following along even a little bit with Durham and all that shit? No? You didn't hear about how that's all been debunked now? You guys love the word debunked. You love going debunked every time we make a claim. You know it's been completely debunked, right? And it was pretty much the day it came out, but it's been officially debunked now. You know that, right? Yeah, okay. Trump SWAT is not us so strong. That's a good one. I like that. It's a good one, Eka. That's really good. I really like that. He glows orange. His fucking sacral is so fucking powerful. He glows. That makes some sense, though. That guy put his dick in so many different things. It's fucking, like, they don't call it a pussy anymore. Just call it Trump's dick hole. All right, relax, Thorne. That's not that funny. That's kind of sexist. It's kind of wrong, dude. Kind of wrong. I call him Cheeto Man. Even though I'm a big giant fan of his, he's still the Cheeto Man. I remember when he banned the bump stocks, I put the meme out that had a picture of like a Cheeto going in somebody's lips. I'm like, when they wanted to ban bump stocks, you were all mad about it. But now that Trump is okay with it, you're like, oh yeah, do it to me harder, daddy. Oh, that was ridiculous. Yes. Thank you, Scotty. A lot of the neocons were big time Fabius. So correct. That's why they're called neocons. They're rhinos. They're bullshit. And again, this is coming from a not Republican, right? I'm not an actual Republican. A lot of people I vote for these days call themselves Republicans, but I'm not a Republican. And neocons are not Republicans. They're not. I wanted to talk about, well, I did. We talked about spirituality for the first half, right? We talked about non-attachment. You notice a different tone. Well, anyway, the good news is, guys, here's my prediction for the next 10 years. And this gets updated all the time, okay? Here's my prediction for the next 10 years, roughly. My prediction is midterms are going to go hard for the red. I don't think that's even with the cheating. I think that they're going to try to screw a few people out of some important positions. So you got Whitmer. Did you guys hear about this? Whitmer in Michigan, the Republican that stood a chance of beating her it just got arrested or whatever. Of course he got arrested. Why? For ties to what? January 6th? Gee, I wonder why they're making this whole show. Because they're trying to, in any way possible, anyone that is a threat to them, they want to link to January 6th, then use January 6th as a precedent to make it so they can't run for office. It's basically the left's Benghazi, but it doesn't hold as much water as Benghazi did. Benghazi actually had a problem. This had a problem, but it wasn't the problem they're trying to make it to be. Yes, January 6th wasn't an insurrection. It was a riot. People breaking windows should go to jail. People doing damage should go to jail. People breaking in should go to jail. No question about it. People just walking through the velvet ropes that didn't do any real damage and do any problem. I mean, it's a public building, guys. What's the problem? January 6th was, yeah, they're playing dirty, Gage. Exactly. And that's going to bite them in the ass. Because once the turnaround is fair play. Have you ever heard that? That's an old boomer saying. or older. If you're boomers and olders really know that's it. Turnaround is fair play. And that's what's coming next. So you're going to see a giant red tsunami, I predict. I don't know how big. I will be shocked if they don't cheat some of it away, but I'll also be shocked if it still doesn't count as a red wave. And I mean a big one. I mean, even with the cheating, I think it's going to be off the chain. Got to make sure it's mostly actual good guys, not neocons. Anyway. From there, that's when it's going to get real fun. I think it's going to get ridiculously fun. And I think it's going to get fun probably starting in October. You're going to get an October surprise. I'm predicting probably something with China, maybe. Like I feel that. I smell it. I smell Chinese food in the air. I feel like China's going to pop off by the fall, by the late summer. So like September, October, November, something's going to happen with China that's going to make a lot of shit go crazy. And I think that we're still got to go through the Summer of Love 2.0. I don't know how they're going to trigger that. They're trying to cause a Summer of Love 2.0. They're trying to see cities burn again. They want to blame it on the people on the right. I think they're trying to instigate a lot of patriots to get mad and do something stupid. I think that's why they're doing what they're doing with this fucking hearing that they're publicizing with, you know. I think that's why, I don't know if you guys heard this. They've got the same FBI spook that ran the Whitmer abduction thing. That same FBI spook is now running something in DC related to January 6th. You can't make this shit up. Yeah, of course China's involved in it. The thing is, a lot of people make China out to be bigger than it is. China's still a threat. Don't get me wrong, the second biggest everything. But they're still sort of a paper tiger a little bit because they're not as strong as they look. They're still very fragile. They're about to have their own economic collapse. And I don't think they're very happy with the globalists either. I think that they're actually looking at this like, okay, you guys have done us a lot of good, but you know what? We don't want this necessarily either this way. They want a bigger seat at the table than they're being given. Everyone's like, China's going to invade America. Maybe in 10, 20 years, call me again. I don't see that happening this time around. Not yet. That's sort of a boogeyman that the right has to displace certain fears. Like they want to, you know why they want you blaming China? So you're not looking at the WEF. Now that you know who the WEF is, it's a little bit harder to point the finger at China solely. You got to look at China as they want to use China. The Chinese they tested a lot of stuff in China, social credit scores, mixed model socialist, hyper capitalist bullshit. They tested a lot of their plans in China, and a lot of it worked, and a lot of it didn't. So they want to export what worked in China to the world, but they don't want to make China the new ruler of the world. That's not what's going to happen. They want to create a three different regions basically for the world, and each one of those is divided amongst itself. So you got North America, you got Europe, you got Asia. They want to take those three and they want to have a powerhouse running each one. Well, America was meant to be the one to run the North American one, the total Americas. The EU is meant to run everything there from there through Africa pretty much. Africa is kind of split between Asia and Africa. Is going to get dissected a bunch. And then you have Asia. That's going to be China. Well, this is falling apart. I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of this is falling apart. It's not working the way they wanted. And a lot of that had to do with the UK with Brexit and America with Trump. Those two things popped that balloon real well because as powerful as these people are, their power is through illusion. They have to project control. The minute that projection starts to flicker and people see that they don't actually have control, it starts to fall apart just like it's doing now. They didn't want what's going on. They don't want this many people to realize what's actually going on, but they do. Too many people know. So that's why they're suddenly crashing down with the reactionary responses that all tyrannical governments do. Everything that you've seen that you hate is a knee-jerk, fearful reaction. It's a flailing by an out-of-control group that doesn't have full power. So you get ministries of truth put in by Biden. You get sudden invasions with the border that are bigger than ever before. You get the pipeline shut down, the economy. Now, they were always going to crash the economy, but they're not doing it the way that they wanted, I can tell you that. This is not going according to plan. All of this, it's like they're still going the way they want to go. So on one hand, they're still hopeful, but they're also stumbling a lot. They're stumbling a lot right now. And they're waking too many people up. And it's sort of like that scene in Star Wars where Princess Leia was talking to, what was it, Moff Talking or whatever. And as you squeeze your hands around or the star systems, more will slip through your fingers or something like that. The more these fuckers squeeze, the more people go, why are you squeezing? What the fuck? You can't do that. And that makes them start researching. They start seeing, they wake up, and they can't get away with it. Their plan was a controlled collapse. Yes, they're still trying to control it, but it's not working right. Too many people know. And what do you think's going to happen when those people that know have no choice but to act? Like, we're looking at this right now like, well, we've got a midterm that might help solve this. So that's buying them time. Interestingly enough, even though they're going to probably lose that bad, it's also buying them time because they've got, at least from now till then, to do as much damage as they can possibly do before they get cut off. Because we're holding back all the patriotic Americans, all the people who are not for globalism, all of those people on this team that hates globalism, and then the globalists and their stupid, ignorant, useful idiots that work with them, that whether they know about it or not, the woke morons and so on. All of the people on this side, we're holding back because we're saying, look, we've got all the guns, we got all this, we got all this, we got all this, but there's a midterm coming. And a lot of people are seeing this midterm as kind of like a last straw. We want to see how this goes. That's right, Gage. The real resistance has yet to even take place. You're right. So what do I think is going to happen? The red wave is going to happen real hard. Then at that point, we're going to be playing a game where there's going to be a lot of blame gaming going on. And you're going to suddenly see the media, which sets the agenda. The media is way more powerful than the government in so many ways that you don't even realize. The government's going to try to use the media. When I say the government, I mean the globalists. They're going to try to use the media to paint all the red wave people as the reason why all of this is going wrong. Mark my words, once the red wave happens and those people start taking control, they're going to start blaming them for why we have fuel shortages and all this other shit. I'm just telling you, just write that on a piece of paper. Everything that's going wrong, they're going to shift the blame to them. They're going to try. Now, while that's happening, now the right wing is going to start playing turnaround as fair play. They're going to start bringing in they're going to bring in maybe Schumer, for example. Somebody brought it up earlier. I forget who it was. Was it you, Gage? No, it was, I think he left. It starts with a K or S. Scotty, I think it was. I don't remember. No, I don't know who it was. Whoever was it brought up. No, it wasn't Scotty. I forget who it was. Brought up the thing with the assassin for Kavanaugh. So maybe Schumer will be one of the first people that's dragged into the Congress to answer for his rhetoric. So you're going to see turnaround as fair play. You don't like the unselect committee? Wait till you see what the other side's probably going to start doing. Wait till you see this election fraud shit start to come to the front. Wait till you see Arizona. If Carrie Lake gets in, all these other people get in that Trump's endorsing and putting there, Arizona is probably going to be the first one to flip with the election stuff. Was it Wisconsin or Michigan is the other? I think it's Michigan's the other one that's really close. So that's why they can't have Whitmer there. Yes, Amy Schumer's father or uncle, Chuck Schumer, correct. That's right, that's right. You're not wrong. They are related. So they're probably going to bring him in for questioning. They're going to make a spectacle of it. They're going to do the exact same thing in reverse when they have both houses, when they have the Senate and the House. They've also got the judiciary. They just don't have the executive. We don't need the executive to get things done. The president's not the most powerful part of government. At least he's not supposed to be. They're supposed to be tied. They're supposed to all have a very significant role to play. The president's not supposed to be a king or a dictator. So my prediction is you're going to see turnaround as fair play starting early next year. You're going to start seeing new investigations and new things coming up. States might even start decertifying the 2020 election somehow. We'll see. I don't know exactly what shape it's going to take. Maybe it'll just be an impeachment against Biden. I don't know. But you're going to start to see turnaround as fair play. The Hunter Biden shit's going to come to the front. You're going to see a quick swing back the other way, and it's probably going to get ugly. You think it's ugly now? Wait till it goes the other way. Wait till it goes the rest of the way. Because then the desperation's really going to hit the fan. You think they're desperate now while they still have control? What do you think is going to start to happen when they start really losing that control? Now, will Trump make a return? I get asked that a lot by people who are like, oh, you got... Part of me thinks so. I think someone just said that like Trump's going to like screw it up and everything else. I don't know where it scrolled off, but I saw it. I think it was Scotty said it. Trump's going to screw it up. I don't think, Trump is old. And I don't think he's really screwed things up. I think his mouth gets him into trouble. I do wish that he was a little bit better at talking, but here's the deal. If he had been more, I don't know, passive and just more careful in what he said, he wouldn't make the headlines so much. And he wouldn't have pulled, like, there's no such thing as bad press. I think that's sort of like a motto he would have. You know why I think this is? Because I've seen him act with utter eloquence, directness, to the point, nail points, get points made, and do them, and bang, like anybody else can do. Then I see him get up there and make a boob out of himself once in a while. Drink bleach or whatever, which he didn't say, but you know what I'm saying. He'll say things that are easily twisted out of context. He gets carried, like I do. He gets bombastic and carried away with himself. That's why I should never be a politician. I'm too much like that. Like if you saw me up there trying to like be a politician, I'd be a terrible politician because of the way I talk. Right, Alexander, Trump is better at memeing, whether he means to be or not. He's much more meme worthy. Well, guess what? That works on the average person way better than a highbrow person. When people say, well, he's going to screw it up. You're overestimating the mind of the population. The reason why Trump works is because he appeals to the average people. Ron Paul wouldn't have worked because Ron Paul was too smart for the average person. He spoke too well. He had points that were too cerebral. Trump is like, illegal immigrants, bad. Wall, good. And that's all it takes because the average person in this country has an IQ of like 98. If you're watching me, you're probably over that. Probably by quite a bit. So you're going to look at that. See, the problem with high IQ people and smart people and people with good working brains is you think like you have the opposite of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like Dunning-Kruger is where you think everyone's as stupid as you are because you don't know you're dumb. Smart people have the inverse of that, where they think everybody's as smart as they are. And they're not. One of the things that has fucked my brain up as someone in the high 130s to low 140s of IQ is I do the same thing. I look at people and I go, yeah, they'll be able to figure this out, won't they? No, they don't get it. Uh-oh, fuck. Okay, now what? I think it's 98 to Trump. It's 100 or less. I think it's 98. It might have changed, but I'm pretty sure it's 98. I think other parts of the world it's 95. And other parts of the world it's like 102. America, I'm pretty sure is 98. Look it up. It's got to be close to that. So don't underestimate the power of his mediocrity. The power of his mediocrity appeals to the John Q public. The most important person in government is them. That's the most important target audience. You can appeal to all the smart people and end up never getting elected because smart people are a very low population group. If you are Mensa material, you are in the top 2%, top 3%. So if you got high 130s and low 140s, you're smarter than, if you're in a room of 100 people, you have a better brain than 97 of them. Just a fact. Well, if the person that you are trying to make president or a leader is so cerebral that only that top 3% will get it, they're never going to get elected. That's right, Alexander. Yeah, his body language is interesting. You ever notice that he does that centaur thing where he leans forward? I used to think that he was doing that for a couple of reasons, because it looks so unnatural the way he stands. I think it's actually to hide his gut, I think, or honestly. Like, well, when you stand that way, your gut kind of goes away. So I don't know what he's got going on there, but he does definitely, he stands like further than the balls of his feet. Like, it's a really weird stance. But it is a bit of a power stance. And when you see him, he looks like a big, gorilla guy. It is a power stance. Imperial is yeah, I've seen that. Trump is an avatar of Keck, a god of primordial chaos. I love the whole Keck stuff, dude. That to me, like, that is, as an occultist, as someone who's into that shit, that whole Keck thing, I'm like, I got a Keck statue because of it. I'm like, fuck it. Maybe I should start working with that entity and see for real. I think it's waning though. I do. I think that you got something else going on now. I think Keck has become eclipsed by whatever the fuck this actually is now. So no offense, Keck, if you're still there, we could use you now, buddy. But Keck is not a good guy. Keck is primordial chaos and darkness and the source itself. So we'll see. So I don't know. I'm gushing too much about Trump. I really don't care. I think that, but I do. So will we see a return of Trump? Well, he's old. He's very old now. He's as old now as Biden was, right? And will he have the vigor left in 24 to be president? Yeah. I don't know. What I could see happening is this is what I could see happening. It's a long shot. I'm not saying this will happen. This is a long shot, but what I could see happening is maybe decertification of the 2020 election. Then it goes back to the states. Like, interestingly enough, you get a really crazy constitutional crisis. It goes back to the states. Then each state gets to cast a vote for the president. And they get one vote each. And each state is going to go according to its color. You can pretty much guarantee it. So the red states are going to go for Trump. Blue's going to go for Biden. And then guess what happens? Biden gets removed. Trump then gets to serve out his second term for free. It doesn't count against his term limit. So he can finish out his second term as the steward that he should have been. Then he can run again in 24 and potentially become president again. Now, that's a long shot. But I do think he does seem healthy, Alexander. I agree. I was just saying, a lot of people will be coming off of the Biden down and go, I don't need another old man to be president, even if it is Trump. There's a lot of people. You got to remember, you got to think in terms of the everyman, not just your side, not just your mind, not just how smart you are or what you see to be true. You got to think like the Fed sitting moron. You got to think like the person with the 98 IQ that doesn't have a good orientation, that's not very educated and isn't very aware. They're going to look at Trump and be like, he's as old now as Biden was, and Biden was a disaster. We can't be having that again. I want somebody younger. And that's a major concern. A lot of people are saying 24 will, maybe Trump shouldn't, because of that alone. That's a pretty valid opinion. I sort of agree a lot. I don't know if I agree 100%, but I agree a lot. Because you have to remember, Trump isn't the guy doing it. Trump is the salesman. The salesman's what's important right now. If he can win the election, fine. What I think could happen is you could see Trump could, again, very long shot, be reinstated as president in 23 at the soonest. It would probably be by the end of 23. Then a lot of house cleaning goes on. One of the things that the Republicans want to do in the next terms for next year is they want to give the president the authority to fire people that we would call the deep state, fire people in the FBI and the CIA and all this other shit. Because right now they can only install them. They can't fire them. Right? So the president could be like, here, I want you to be this, but then they can't fire them. Now that's important because the FBI is supposed to be able to have sort of immunity a little bit so that it can go against the president if it has to. Like, it's strange to think about, but that's part of its job. It's got to be able to do that. So I don't know how they're going to work that out. I don't know enough to know. But that's one of the things they want to do. So there is a scenario out there that is a very, 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 very long shot. But there is a scenario out there in which Trump could become president again in 23, clean house completely. Well, remember what I said about turnaround is fair play. 24 then becomes an open election because Trump, I would think if that happened, he would step down. Now, Trump has alluded to the idea when they said like, oh, would you become president this way or this way again? One of the ways that they alluded to was, would you become Speaker of the House and then we impeach Biden and Harris? I don't think he would do that because you'd have the left would go ballistic at that point. Because they would just say that you just subverted the whole show and put him back. And they would be right in the sense like if I was on their side, I would see that. Like I could see why they would think that. And it would be a very tough sell for that half of America. Even people who are like not for Biden would be like, yeah, but you can't just impeach the president and put the guy who wants to be president as the Speaker of the House just to put him in. That would be too much like an actual coup. And I think that would cause too much damage to this country. I don't think Trump wants that. I think the decertification would be an exception because you could show the public why it's necessary. If you could show it, if you could have all these states suddenly decertify the election, the media can't not report on it. And they can try to spin and lie about it, but that would be too obvious. They wouldn't get away with it well enough. So they're going to have to tell the truth. They're already starting to do it. They're already starting to come out ahead of some of this. If you're paying attention. So they could decertify on some level. I don't know exactly the mechanism, but they're talking about it. You got people in Arizona certainly talking about it. You got people in other states talking about it. Pennsylvania's talking about it. All of the states with the exception of Georgia, I don't think they're going to get Georgia because Georgia's so fucking corrupt because you can have anybody vote in your primaries in Georgia. So they reinstalled Kemp. Kemp should never in a state where your primary is only based on your party, Kemp never would have got it again. I think what happened in Georgia was a whole bunch of people on the Democrat side went and voted in the Republican primary and they voted for Kemp because Kemp is clearly on their side. So I'm soft predicting. Like this is my shot in the dark, long shot. This is my pipe dream. So Trump could get back in that way. And if he did, I think in 24 he would have somebody else be a surrogate. I don't think he would run again. And if he did, there's definitely people I agree with that he should choose his running mate. DeSantis is not the one. I don't think DeSantis should run for president in 24. I think he should go for 28. The only reason DeSantis should go for 24 is if Trump is completely out of the picture. If Trump doesn't want to run at all, okay, let DeSantis have it. Why do I say that? Because DeSantis is doing good in Florida, I think, mostly. And I want to keep him there to keep Florida intact. You need a base of operations. You need at least one state to stay strong. That's a good example. He's doing good work there. Why take him out of that spot? Not yet. Let him keep getting experience as governor and as a leader and keep having that giant pair of balls he's got and let him be the one for a while. Then 28, let him run. Now, someone mentioned Styx, which is funny because Styx Hexenhammer is one of my favorite YouTubers. Styx, I think, pointed out, I think it was Styx said it, and I'd love to do a stream with Styx, but we would disagree on a lot. I think we disagree well, but we would disagree on a lot. And here's the thing that would be different. Styx has absolutely outclasses me. The only person who knows better than Styx maybe would be like Foolish Fish and Esoterica. Like those two guys know way more than Styx does, but Styx has edited like, what, 300 books at this point? You know, so he's read them all. So he's definitely filled his brain. He's forgotten more occult shit than I know, right? I think. But I don't think he has the mystical perspective. I think the mystical shit, he's like dead. Like, I don't think no offense, brother, if you're ever watching this. I think you're my favorite dude in the world to watch. But I think the mystical side, he's not into. He's too pragmatic. I think that to him the mystical stuff is woo, and it doesn't click for him. But I love Styx. I would love to have Styx. Like, that would be, like, I'd feel so good. I actually had a dream a couple times that he and I met, and it was like fun, and we were like totally different, but we got along, and it was cool. Like, I feel like I'd get along with him pretty good. I hope I would. He seems like an easy guy to get along with, honestly. If you treat him with respect, I think he'd be fucking cool as shit. But he'd probably have no shame in saying, Thorne, you're wrong about this. I'd be like, I am. It would be really funny to watch. It would be really fucking funny. So I don't know, if you can make it happen, tell him I exist. I don't know. But yeah, I agree with Styx, because I think it was Styx who said that Trump should pick Rand Paul as his running mate in 24 if he does run. And I really, really, really think that would be fucking awesome. I think if Trump ran with Rand, that would be perfect, because Rand needs the experience, because he would be a good president too. He's put his balls on the line just like DeSantis, and he's important in the Senate, but unless he becomes more important than that, he's just one voice out of a crowd. He needs to have more than that. He needs to be something more important than that. And I think that Trump's angling to give Kevin McCarthy all the love, whatever reason, even though he backstabbed them. I don't know what, I have a feeling that that's like just, compromise politics there. I don't love it, but it is what it is. Just like Dr. Oz, I think that was a stupid endorsement, but I think that he's got his reasons. So I don't know. But if you put Trump and Rand together, I think that would be fan-fucking-tastic, because Rand is way closer to what I want. He's still not, I want his father, but if I can't have his father, I will accept Rand. Rand is way closer to what I want as my government than Trump, right? Rand is what I really want. Trump is the next best thing. And that would be fucking awesome. I don't know if it would happen. I think Styx is right. That would be fucking great. Would it happen? Probably not. I don't think it would. I think that Rand, I think that Rand's too much of his own animal. I don't know. Yeah. So I actually have for America, I think that we're going to go through our Pluto return. Like, we're going through it right now. It's a long process. Whenever they consider it, like if they're going by the 4th of July, then our Pluto return is on the 4th of July this year. If they're going by other reasons, then it started back a few months ago officially. But since it is a slow process, it actually started like a year or two ago, like 2020, interestingly enough. So Pluto return is happening. The elite, if we're going to call them that, they use astrology for every fucking thing. Yeah, heck, I don't think Rand likes Trump that much. But I gotta tell you, Ron Paul and Rand Paul, they've softened on Trump a lot by comparison, because it's kind of like, we hate playing with the lesser of two evils, but when you're literally talking about one that wants to enslave and destroy and kill the world, and one who just wants to be a typical, statist, they're going to choose the statist, okay? They're not so purist that Rand Paul and Ron Paul wouldn't vote for Trump. If the option was Trump or Biden, they're going to side with Trump. Just, it's, you can see it happening. Rand can't come out and say Trump's a good guy, but he sure does fight a lot of Trump's battles very well for him on the other side of the situation, doesn't he? Trump Jr. is going to be in the 30s, guys. Don't get your hopes up by Trump Jr.'s until 30s and 40s. So, and I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I want a dynasty, guys. We just had a dynasty. We've had the Bush, Clinton, and Obama dynasty, which is really one big dynasty. It's just three different families that are part of a bigger family. I don't know if I want a big long dynasty like that, but maybe that's what we need to have. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Trump Jr., I think by the 30s, we probably need somebody different involved. Just me, though. Yeah. So, okay. So I think America's going to go through its Pluto return. It's going to be a bumpy ride. I think we're going to get through it, though. And I think we're actually going to be better on the other side. I think that we're going to kick these fuckers out. I really do. I think it's going to be rough, though. I don't think that, even though I have hope, I think it's going to be really bad getting there. This is why I keep telling you guys, I mean, shit, we just hit $5 in gas average, national average. That is like an unofficial bellwether for, oh shit, we're fucked. If it stays there for any length of time, you're going to start seeing everything start falling apart on levels you haven't seen before in your life. If it stays this way through the summer and it doesn't go back up and down, like if it's a roller coaster, maybe we'll make it through. If it stays over $5 for like the rest of the month into July, panic will set in. Things will start to shut down, and this country's going to shit quick when that happens. It might be unavoidable at this point, right? So we'll see. But it's going to be, the bumpy ride is just getting, you thought 2020 was bad? You thought 21 was bad? You think 22 is bad? You wait till they're actually fighting this out. You wait until after the midterms when they actually are playing tit for tat and turn around as fair play. You wait and you see what they do. You think they're staging mass shootings right now? You think they're staging shit right now? Wait till all the marbles are actually on the line. They're not yet. We're in the calm before the actual storm. And this is an election year, so it's already bad. You wait till their balls are actually in the vice. Then you're going to see. So 23, I'm telling you, I'm worried about the end of this year into 23. I am really worried about it. And when I say worried, I don't actually mean worried. I mean, that's what my eyes are on. I'm watching that like a hawk. And you guys really need to have your shit, like, tightened up. You need to have at least 2 months, guys, at least 2 months of stored shit, at least some backup reserve capital in case shit goes bad, gold, silver. I'm not giving you financial advice. Yes, even Bitcoin, yes, it's volatile, but it's still better than cash in a lot of ways, even though it's going down. I know, but it's got its purposes. I'm still holding, dude. I'm not getting rid of mine. You can get rid of yours if you want. Give it to me if you want. So invest in things that will, if you have a collapse of the dollar, that will not completely go down. So have your shit together. Get your shit together if you don't. You don't have to be a doomsday prepper. You don't need to have a bunker. You don't need to have every gun ever made. You don't have to have, honestly, if you don't already have all that, you're not going to have it in time. If you're one of these people who's like, well, I'm going to start gardening this year. Yeah, good luck with that. If you don't already know how to subsistence farm, that's not going to be your ticket out. You need to have skills that you can sell somebody who does. You need to get a skill that you can give somebody who does know how to grow food. Whatever that is. There's a lot of skills out there. But you need to have at least a couple months of stored shit ready to go. You need to have some backup plans, because in America, I don't think it's going to be that bad compared to the rest of the world. I think the rest of the world, you're going to be seeing videos, you're going to see news reports, you're going to see the help the children shit go berserk, because you're going to see a lot of starving people in the third world this year. I think definitely by the end of August, you're going to start seeing it roll in. You're going to start seeing the real impact of all of this, the war in Russia and shit. You're going to see all of this really hit, and it's going to be bad. I think you're going to see maybe millions die. I don't know. It's going to be bad. It's going to be surreal. It's going to be scary. It's going to be gross. You're going to be watching this going like, holy shit. You're going to have people in Europe and the UK skipping meals, and people in like Africa and other places skipping meals for months. Like it's going to be bad. So I think America's going to pull through, but I think it's going to be a fight. I think it's going to be a bumpy road, but I think we're going to make it. And the reason I think we're going to make it is because too many people know now. We've reached critical mass. I am very confident in that. We have reached critical mass on the opposition side, and they are fighting back. So unless they do something really unusual, which could happen, I'm not saying it's 0% chance that they'll win, unless they do something really, really, really unpredictable, like a black swan thing that they got planned, then that could be different. But the way they've been flailing around, if they just keep doing this, they're going to lose bad. They're not going to hold America. Europe, on the other hand, is done. If you're in Canada right now, if you're in Australia, if you're in Europe, if you're in Asia, most of Asia, with the exception of like Japan maybe, you're fucked. Korea is probably all right for a while. You're fucked. If you're in the EU, you're fucked. You're completely fucked. You had your chance. You had your chance. I think that French election, you had your chance. You're not getting out of this unless America does. If America gets out of it, they're going to try to grip you tighter than a fucking, I don't even want to say it, something gross. I was thinking something gross. I don't want to say it. They want to grip you tighter than Biden does a little girl, allegedly, when he's sniffing them. They're going to grip you. If you're in the EU, if you're in Canada, if you're in Australia, they are going to put you in the sleeper hold, dude. And they're not going to let go now. They got you. I'm just telling you, they got you. Like my crystal ball says, they got you. UK may pull out a little bit, but they got you too. You got. You've been done gotten. Is done. The only way that you're going to get out of this at this point is if America gets out of it and resists it. And then you guys will have an example to follow. That's it. That's it. I don't see it happening any other way. So the next thing that happens is America's going to need new allies. Once America breaks free of this globalist shit and starts arresting people, maybe, I don't know if they're going to arrest people or just a victim. Whatever we end up doing here in the States, the globalists aren't going to respond well. You're going to see the EU and NATO turn on us real fast. You're going to see United Nations turn on us. You're going to see America get labeled this crazy ass. America's going to get started to be treated like Russia. The EU is going to demand its own standing army. They want one already. They've been wanting one for a while, but they're going to get one. By the 2030s, the EU will have its own standing army, if not long before. And by a standing army, I don't mean a defense force. I mean one that can project offense. The EU will have an offensive army again by the 2030s. That's the course we're on. I'm positive. Because once America is out of the globalist picture, they're going to need a replacement. They already want one because of Russia. They're going to use Russia as an example and say, well, because of Russia, we need a bigger army. We need to be able to project force so we could have saved Ukraine. You're going to see it be like that. Okay? I don't know the exact rhetoric, but that's going to be the kind of rhetoric they're going to use. So what's going to happen to America then? Well, we're going to need new allies. I'm pretty sure we'll find allies in Russia and Brazil and India in particular. India is salivating at having America put them in the position China's in. India is like, I don't want to get my channel in trouble by doing an Indian accent. India wants America to be its sugar daddy. And India's got hope there. India's actually got like quite an interesting, I like India. Something about India, I like India. I know it's a little, there's a lot of things people say. I know it's economically in the shithole and all, but India, I think, has potential to take over China's role as America's industrial sector. And I think India wants that. I think that's why India was so favorable with Trump. If you watched a lot of the news reporting that was going on, India loved Trump. They gave him the most, reasonable questions when they would give questions to Trump. So India really wants to be in. And you notice all these BRICS nations, which actually includes China, interestingly enough, all the BRICS nations, it's interesting. I think it's really interesting. Will it happen that way? I wonder. So I think America's going to need new allies. And I think we're going to find them. And I think that it's going to be the EU, Canada, Australia, maybe the UK. China's 50-50 in my book right now. I honestly can't, I want to be one of those people who say China's the bad guy. They are the bad guy, but I don't know if they're going to be on the globalist side much longer. I don't know if they will. They're going through shit right now that things aren't working out for them the way they were told they would. I'm positive of that. So are they going to be on board with globalism much longer? I don't know. I feel like they might not be. They're more on board with Russia right now. China and Russia are openly closer than China is to the EU and the WEF and all that shit. I have a feeling that China's going to turn on the globalists. I don't know why. I could be wrong. I just get that gut feeling like China's going to turn on them. Doesn't mean China's a good guy. Doesn't mean Russia's a good guy. For those of you who are getting triggered, I'm not saying they're good guys. I'm just telling you the way that the alliances are shaping up. Could you imagine a future where America has closer allies with Russia, China, North Korea, maybe even Korea, Japan, Brazil, nations like that, and our new, at least economic, I'm not going to say war enemies, right? Because I don't think we're going to have hot wars ever again unless something really goes weird. I think the days of hot wars and nuclear wars and shit, I think that's all over unless it's staged or something. I think that we're going to see like the info war, the Cold War will be America and our new allies versus our old allies. I think that's what's going to happen. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's what's coming. America's going to be like, oh, well, you know, we got all these bases in Europe, motherfucker. We're protecting your ass in NATO. We're pulling all this out. Or we're just going to turn around and be like, you better watch it or we're going to point it at you. I don't know how it's going to shake out. I don't know if it's going to be good or bad. But I feel like they're going to try to isolate America to try to break us, and it's not going to work. Because America's too big. Once America turns its own industry back on, we're too big. They're not going to just break us. It's not like we're not like Europe that needs resources from everybody. America has almost all of its own. The only resources America needs is lithium. And that's the stuff we really need for our energy of the future. That's why China is such a big deal. That's why North Korea is such a big deal. They got all the rare earth stuff there. America doesn't have that. We've got the oil. Why do you think we want to get our oil shit going again? We've got tons of oil. We got more oil than anybody. We're just not allowed to use it. So we want China, 2030s and 2040s is going to be China's time, whether we want it to be or not. China knows this. They got to survive to get there because the way technology is going, fossil fuels will eventually get phased out. The way the left wants to do it is wrong, but it does need to happen. So eventually you're going to see an end of that. And it will all be electronic everything. That's the future is electronic vehicles. The future is batteries. The future is green energy. I'm just telling you, whether they win or lose, that is still has to be the future. We can't keep going with fossil fuels. You know what we did? We went from our source of power was sticking grass in animals and the wind and water to burning and exploding stuff. And we haven't gone any further. But there's power out there that we know how to use. We just can't get it distributed right. We haven't got the logistics done. And it's not necessarily more efficient pollution-wise. It still has some catching up to do. But it's got to get there. Yeah, I like the way you put that, Psycho Shinobi, even though batteries are good for the environment, right? Exactly. Like, I often laugh at people like, oh, you should use solar. I'm like, do you know how many years those solar... my last research into solar was it takes about 11 years worth of pollution to make one solar panel. So the amount of pollution you put in the environment for one solar panel is 11 years. It doesn't even begin to start paying back for 11 years to the environment, the amount of damage it does. And that's just in making it. What do you think happens when it's broken? Now it's got to go into a landfill, and now it's doing more damage. So it's not that much better, guys. It's not. Could it be better? Yes, there's ways to do it. I like to look at Elon Musk and be like, what are you working on? I want to copy off his plate. You know, you could always do orbital satellites that collect solar radiation and then beam it down as microwaves. The problem with that is, though, you know, you could get some kind of Dr. Evil that decides to turn those things on cities or something and burn cities down. But yeah. Wow, we actually have quite a few people lingering this far. Usually by now we're down in the 20s. We're in the 40s right now. I didn't know that, Experimental Zaniel. Bro, Utah is working on the lithium problem. Interesting. I don't know if that's a joke. You're talking about, you know, What are we talking about there? Are you right? So they're working on alternatives? They got some other battery? That'd be good to know. I'd like to see that. Odo, the aliens will be projections that the government is putting in the clouds. That's my prediction. The aliens will be drones or something. I think that whole, the alien revelation reveal shit, I think that there's only two ways that goes, guys. It really is aliens and they've been running the whole thing the whole time and we're fucked or something, like all that, like the reptile shit is true, like David Icke is talking about, or it's going to be something that they use to scare the world. Like a 9/11, but with aliens. I mean, I've heard that in Inerta. I am skeptical on the alien thing, not closed-minded, but I am skeptical on it. And I had a dream. I think I've told you guys on this stream before. I had a dream once where I dreamt that the aliens wanted to talk to us. Or I should say, the aliens are talking to us, but they don't want to be revealed until they don't want to work with the world until the world is unified under one government. So the world has to be one government that they can deal with because they don't want to deal with. So think of it like this. If we look at history, a lot of the times like colonialists would go to more primitive cultures and they would find the biggest tribe and then they would help that tribe to unify all the other tribes so they could have just one to deal with. I think in a way, that's what my dream was saying, was the aliens wanted to just deal with one government, not, dozens and hundreds of other ones. They wanted a united Earth because then it's easier to deal with, and then they would help us into their federation. But I don't know, guys. I don't know. Yeah, Necronicki, I agree. The alien disclosure has been pretty weak. Actually, the thing that's funny about it is there was a meme that was going around, and I agree with it, that like you have the government literally going, hey, we got UFOs over here. Like they're actually well, we call them UAPs now. We got actual UAPs here that might be aliens. Like we think they could be because nothing that we know does that. This is pretty crazy. And everyone's like, yeah, that's cool. But election fraud and COVID and people don't care. That's how bad it is. They're literally going, we might have aliens here. People are like, yeah, that's great. Whatever. Nutra says, I've seen them and have a big history in that area, DH. I mean, full disclosure, one of the things that we did a lot of when I was younger was hypnotic regression to alien abduction stuff. And the stories that I told with that, I have them shelved on a different shelf. I am skeptical, but not closed-minded. And I've got reason for it. But I am not in denial over it either. If something, the problem with the alien stuff is there's too much flat earth like woven into it. When I say, I don't mean literally the flat earth. I mean, there's flat earth level conspiracy theory stuff that I can tell is bullshit woven into it. But then there's parts of it that are going, yeah, maybe though. I know I've heard all the Anunnaki stuff. I've seen all that. And there's like, what is it? Some say 7, what is it, 72? There's all these different numbers of alien species that are here. And you got reptile version A, which is interdimensional and it's like an energy vampire. And you got reptile B, which is literally reptile aliens. Then you got the little grays, which are actually more like little genetically engineered drones that are piloted by, something. You got the good grays and the bad grays and the blah blah blah, and you got the Nordic ones, and some of them are worse, and I don't know, man. The Saurians, I mean, there's so much, so there's so much that there's just so much crazy shit thrown in that I just can't, like, I need more than just some, like, if it's on the History Channel, I don't know. If they're showing it on the History Channel, I got my doubts. That's all I'm going to say. Does that mean that it's not true at all? No, I don't think that either. But I think one of the ways I put it is knowing what I know about science and technology, which, maybe admittedly is not like necessarily, PhD level. And even if it was, it doesn't mean that it's accurate. But what I know about science and technology tells me that the idea of aliens traveling here in fast and light spaceships to fuck with us for any reason, really, would have to be for academic purposes, most likely. They're not here for our water and our gold and our other, all of those substances are more common in space than they are here even. Water is like one of the most common things in the universe. So they're not here for water. They're not here for this and that. They would probably be here for our culture and our basically for conversation or spiritual reasons, perhaps. Yes. But the whole idea that they're going to travel here, that's the most inefficient thing that I can imagine, is to travel here with like a spaceship. That's so inefficient. So it would have to be something unusual. So even now we're all talking through this because this is so much cheaper, easier, and efficient to do. We're not all traveling to each other to talk. So what I'm trying to say is the idea that little green men are flying here in flying saucers, I don't buy that. I think that's kind of silly. Does that mean that there is no alien intelligences involved with Earth? No. I would think that if there is something like that out there, they may have a way of doing their interaction with us that has nothing to do with spaceships. And if they did use anything like that, it'd be like generational ships. They'd be like Van Neumann probes, like things that would arrive here. They'd build themselves. They'd have an AI on board. Then they would use AI to control, biological bots and drones and shit. I could see that. Maybe they've been here for a while. Maybe they came from Earth. There's also the Saurian hypothesis that dinosaurs evolved, got smart, made cities, flew off into space, and it was so far long ago that there's no record of it. And now they're coming back to be like, hey, what happened to Earth? Maybe. I think that's a little far-fetched, but I'm not saying zero. There's also one that when I was younger that was tied into the whole alien thing that I was talking about, was the idea that there was a planet between Mars and Jupiter that blew up, which matches the at least the History Channel version of the Anunnaki stuff that was, oh goodness, Tiamat's son so Tiamat and his son blown up by Marduk, and that was the dragon. That was, I forget the name of the dragon, but it wasn't Tiamat. It was Tiamat's son or whatever. But that was what was blown up. A moon orbiting a planet that was between Mars and Jupiter blew up, and then that planet got kicked out and is probably like Neptune, Uranus, or some shit. And that was all built into some of the stuff that I channeled when I was younger. Do I believe it literally? Probably not. Am I open to it? Of course. Kingu, thank you, Heka. Thank you. Yes, Kingu. Is that literally? See, my issue is that a lot of my spiritual training teaches me to look beyond the literal nature of what is told. So even these alien stories, even people say they've seen stuff like that. I try to look past the literal interpretation. There may be something else going on that can seem that way. And I'm not saying swamp gas from Venus and there's no aliens. I'm saying, are you sure it was a spaceship and not an interdimensional vehicle? You sure it was a spaceship and not a drone that was being piloted by a Van Neumann probe type intelligence in the system? Are you sure it was aliens and not a biological construct? Are you sure it was aliens and not a vision implanted into your head by something able to contact you? So you see what I'm getting at is this whole, like the classical Star Wars, Star Trek idea of spaceship. Well, thank you, Zeniel. It's kind of funny, he said Star Trek about the dinosaurs went to space. The whole idea that we're talking about literal aliens coming to Earth on spaceships, a la Star Trek, Star Wars. I've got like a 10%, 10% of my probability is invested on that. I don't think so. Maybe. I don't think so. Maybe. I don't think so. Like I said, mind open. I'm not saying zero. I'm just saying I need to see hard evidence. I need something that is as convincing as some of the other stuff I've seen. And unless I see that, I've got to just be, I don't know what this is. Is it a UFO or a drone? You know what I mean? Is it an alien ship or is it a drone that another country's doing? Is it something of ours that is playing with our own military? Is it, what are we talking about? Well, we don't know. And my gut says that they wouldn't tell us unless they had to, or unless they're lying to us about it somehow. Because they don't tell us the truth. We're the sheep on the farm. You think the farmer tells the sheep what's going to happen to them? No, they make it look like they have a nice field to live in and they keep them safe and they shear them all the time. And every once in a while, the old and the sick or the very young, the lambs get taken out. And they go, well, where did they go? I don't know. Maybe they're going to another farm. I don't know. There shouldn't be anything wrong. They're just leaving. And they're getting butchered and eaten alive. For all I know, what we are seeing is just a zoo, the zoo hypothesis, very interesting one. So I don't know. I kind of hesitate to mix my poisons too much here. I don't like mixing spirituality and aliens too tight right now. I want to see, now if it happens, I'm going to be one of those people who goes, ha, I knew it. I promise you I will. Because I did a video not long ago about aliens on Venus. They detected signatures on Venus that were consistent with life. I mean, I'm positive life is actually common in the universe. Is it civilized life with cities and spaceships and shit? I'm having trouble here. The reason I'm having trouble is because even our amateur astronomers and radio astronomers have the technology to pick up aliens at this point if they're within a reasonable distance from us. We would know. The government couldn't hide that. There'd be no way to hide it. It would just be too obvious. So they'd have to be using something other than what we're used to using for communication that we don't even know about. That's the only thing. So. All right, my voice is going, guys, so I am going to wind it down. But this was a fun stream, and we maintained pretty high. We're still up at 40s. We still got 40 people here watching this. Are you serious? Are you shitting me right now? Still 40 people? I should keep talking. Usually we're down in the 20s by now. So I want to thank you guys for sticking around tonight. I wasn't planning on having big current events conversation, but people got me going and I got me going. I'm glad we started out with other stuff. And I want to thank you guys for being here. Yes, Nikki, they actually detect that all the time. Radio signal doesn't necessarily mean a signal from a radio. Radio signal means just radio from the magnetic spectrum. And you can have radio waves that are generated by all kinds of shit that aren't radio like radio machines. They detected lasers too. Like there's actually a laser that I think was black holes, if I remember correctly, and it focused the light into a laser beam, and we got hit with a laser, but like, oh my God, we found a laser. But it's, so a lot of these things will, in the headlines, sound really cool till you read the details, and it's like, oh, that's what it was? Okay. Could they be lying? Of course. The thing is, again, you have radio astronomers, and you have other astronomers who they would know. I'm just saying, you couldn't hide it right now. Like it's an actual problem even for the intelligence community to keep satellites from really prying amateur eyes. It's a thing. So we couldn't hide it, I don't think. Not if they're using anything remotely conventional for communication. They'd have to be using something so exotic we haven't thought of it yet from a civilian standpoint, at least. So we will see. We will see. I am not saying no. I'm saying I think we're going to find life in the solar system in our lifetimes, most of us. Like if you're in your 40s or younger, I think there's a really good chance in, again, the next decade or two that we're going to confirm that there's amoebas on Mars or on Titan or something. We're going to find some evidence that's going to be like, it's not a question of, is there life in the solar system? It's more a question of, how much is out there, or which planets have it and which don't, or something, planets with an S. I think that's what's going to be. I really do. So anyway, guys, I want to thank you guys. I really do. If you guys want to support my work, I pinned a comment in the chat. You can go there. You can go and buy something if you want. You can subscribe to my Patreon. All the old classroom videos are on there. If you subscribe at $9 or higher, you get access to that. You get access to the playlist. It's like almost, I don't know, I haven't done the math in a while. I guess somewhere between 150 and 200 hours worth of classroom instructions. It's not formal classrooms. It's just, here's some meditation, here's some this, here's some that. It's more Thorne shit if you want it. So for $9 or higher, you can get that. I have my books. I'm still diligently working on fucking up another book. I don't know if it's ever going to come out. You know, I've got so much on my plate again. And no services right now. I'm not doing services for the foreseeable future. They will come back at some point, but I got to be more firm on what I do. You know, I really got tired of the whole, you know, could you do a spell because I want something type of attitude. My idea of good magic is more theurgic than thaumaturgic. I think you should do your own thaumaturgy. I'm here to do the theurgy. If you want me to do theurgy for you, I'd be interested potentially. Like if you need a, you know, a ritual for communing with a spirit or whatever, yeah, maybe. You know, not right now though. You can email me about it if you really want to know. But I'm very picky right now. I just don't want to do rituals for people lately. It's just not my thing. But that will come back. I've got to I'm basically rebooting what I do. Like Fleshy predicted like 3 or 4 months ago or whatever. He said, I feel like you're about to go through like a reboot, like a reinvention phase, and you haven't quite figured out who you are yet again. I'm like, it sounds right to me, bro. I'm working on it. So things are changing with me. And as you can tell, even by the format, demons are like, you know, we'll talk about them some other time. Not interested right now because I feel like they became a distraction for me from the big stuff. I'm more of a, you know, mystical metaphysician. Spirits are important to that, but they are not, you know, it's too much like telling people stories about Santa Claus. You know, you guys got, not you guys, I'm not criticizing, but you guys got to look at this. The bigger mystical picture is way more important than what, you know, what color King Paimon's left eyebrow is or something. Like, that stuff's important to some people. Sure. I'm not knocking it, but anyone can tell you stories about their spiritual experiences. And that's important, but I want to talk about the big stuff. I want to talk about the fact that you're God. I want to talk about consciousness. I want to talk about the essence of what makes magic magic. I don't want to talk about story time that much. Not all the time. Sometimes, but not right now. So we'll see. I'm reinventing again, and we're going to get there soon. I get closer every time, but I'm not quite there yet. So if you guys like me, if you like my stuff, support my work any way you can. Subscribe, like, share, buy my crap, sell my crap, whatever you got to do. Check out my my Etsy, and yeah, I'll check you guys next week. All right. Any last comments? I'm gonna count to 30. 1, 2, 3. Yes, rebirth. That's right. That's right, an expert Zennial. I do that all the time. You know, my grandmother, she used to read palms. I don't know if she was good at it or not. She might have just been making it up. But she read my palms, both of them. And she looked at my lifeline. She's like, your lifeline is split in half. So the good news is I reached my literal halfway point like last year or the year before. Like 2018, I guess. So I'm going to probably live to my 80s. And I know that because my life completely split in half. I completely changed who I was again back then. So, all right, guys. I want to thank you all. I'm seeing the good nights. There's no more comments or questions. I appreciate you all. I will see you next Thursday, probably if not before. I might do a weekday stream again. I kind of like doing those sometimes. So I will see you guys again. And thank you for making it this far. I really appreciate it.